Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. We good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Saturday. We are going in tonight. Just like the song by Lil Wayne, I'm going in. What does Hebrew really mean? Let me say that one more again. What does Hebrew really mean? Do people understand what that means? Does anybody take time to look up history, to study real history? The real meaning of Hebrew may um, surprise some of you. It has real meaning, real designation, and like a lot of words, it's used out of context. Now, let me make something clear. I'm not referring, I'm not dissing anybody's religious practice. That's not my style. I'm not a biblical scholar, and nor would I dare go against anybody's religious beliefs. That would be just ignorant. I'm talking about history, scholarship, what Hebrew means. All right. Last but not least, we're going to touch on the Moors. Like our brother Tariq Nasheed said weeks ago, and I'm paraphrasing our dear brother, the Moors have a history, kind of a oppish little history. And when he said that, that got my attention, and I started doing a little research. So, second part of our segment is going to ask: Are the Moors allies or ops? Check the history. Y'all like that check mark, don't you? Anyway, we're gonna look at that. Um, and expound upon it. So first and foremost, you know what? I need to break out my computer to do this, but um Hebrew, the late great C. Freeman L. Uh scholar, teacher to the great Bobby Hemmett, um, taught through his esoteric knowledge that the word Hebrew means her web. Again, the word Hebrew means her web. So whose web are you referring to? The web is referred to is of Mother Zudakias. Y'all know Mother Zudakias as the zodiac, and the web is the web of space. Got it? So in Mother Zudakias's web, you have 12 um, or 13. I'm not sure because uh, was not Justinian, Gregorian destroyed information to try to throw us off. It's a conspiracy. It is. We'll talk about that later on. But as we know it, there are 12 zodiacs. Um, Now zodiac don't have nothing to do with who you love or when you're gonna get mad or nah. It has to do with areas in space time. Let me say that again, ladies and gentlemen. A zodiac is an area in space time in the vast array of the space time continuum. You have Aquarius, which we're in right now. That's a location. See, think of the universe. The all is like a big disco, like a record. You know what I'm saying, on a vinyl record spinning. Thank you, babe. Um, Spinning around. There are different locations in this in space time that our solar system flows in and out of, and that gigantic uh, uh, space time, the universe, the ancestors used to refer to it as Zudakias, Mother Zudakias. I think the Egyptians would call her Nut, which where the word night comes from, because Mother Zudakias is jet black and beautiful. But anyway, so Hebrew is taken out of context. Let's look at it. That changes everything, really, if you think about it, because Hebrew is like it's involves cartography. You're looking at maps. Why? Because our ancestors had a vast knowledge of the stars. They knew star constellations, star locations, and somehow they knew that the how big the observable universe was. Wani Spots, how did our ancestors know how to observe the observable universe? And how did they know about all these locations and they didn't have a telescope? Please educate me.
I think it's because of their esoteric, like going into trances. That's one easy way. They go into trances and they ask ancestors for things, and you can't really deny that anymore. You know why?
Why is that?
Because because they went into trances and they asked for herbs to heal, and they got them. These are in places that have millions of plants and compounds, and something told them, get this and this and mix it together and keep your community well with these compounds and mixtures. It's it's technically impossible for, based on the amount of time, for someone to just randomly go out into nature or a forest and come up with two compounds that you mix together and you get something new. And that's exactly what we know Khoisan did, because they found a bone that was hollowed out and it had a compound in it that would be used. It was recently found and it had been lost for thousands of years. It belonged to a Khoisan. It was like a pouch that they wore, and he was like a medicine man, and it actually had medicine, a compounded powder that mixed into something that could be used today as medicine. And it's impossible to come up with that. What is it, DMT, the
Yes, you beat me to
ayahuasca?
it. Yes, you beat me to it.
It's
Go ahead.
impossible. Some things are possible. This is impossible because of the staggering number of plants and the fact that you have come up with two plants, mixed them together, and came up with something that can literally take you into another place. And they've been using that combination for a long time. So I think in those trances or in these other states, they were able to see things that, you know, science doesn't know about. They also tapped into the Akashic record. Even people that don't know that they're using that information do it by accident. There's a phenomena where an invention needs to be made, and you'll have two separate people, two different groups that come up with the same idea. They say, "Hey, we need a telephone." Did you know that someone else had invented the telephone and was fighting with Alexander Graham Bell? And that inventor that worked with Alexander, the black man, Lewis Latimer, he had to go to court and show that he had worked on the blueprints for this device, the telephone. So, two different men or groups of men working on the phone at the same time, they feel that these inventions get into the um, atmosphere, so to speak, and are pulled out by certain people, that they're able to tap into that information. And it happens a lot with different civilizations around the world. They'll both come up with something very similar to advance themselves.
Very interesting, Wani. What she said about DMT is very fascinating. Joe Rogan had a podcast on DMT. I'm not even going to attempt to say it. Dimethyltryptamine or something. Well, they call that the God molecule, and Wani said was correct, but Joe, um, did a DMT. He does DMT trips all the time. And the weird thing about DMT is apparently um, people are meeting the same exact group of people. They call them the elves. Some of the elves look pharaonic. They have headdresses like the pharaohs. Um, and Joe Rogan did one, and he said that he did a DMT trip, and the elves were said, "Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you're here. We love this new technology. I love your new technology." So the elves viewed DMT as a technology, like Wani said, the drug was a technology. Now, okay, well, maybe he had a bad trip and dream, whatever. Okay, I can dig that. But several other people unrelated to Joe's had the same damn trip, and when they drew the elves out, they looked the same. So could this drug be modifying your brain in a way that you tap into another density, into another dimension and meet another group of people? I don't know, but what I know is about to drop a nuclear bomb on this motherfucking X channel right quick. Check this out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. These computers, what y'all probably didn't know, Silicon Valley with all these computer advancements. Do y'all know that some of the young men that were out there, the white boys that was experimenting with computers, got got on drugs, DMT, acid, and through acid trips, they came up with new ideas to develop new computers. Take that. So did the elves help them develop a computer chip? I don't know, but I know for a fact that early on Silicon Valley, they would sit in rooms and get high as fuck when they were developing new computer technology.
That's interesting because many, like Tesla for one, and many inventors say that, and musicians say that they are not coming up with this stuff, that they're channeling it, that it's coming through them. And I can actually attest to this experience because I do get into a zone where it's like, and then I look at it and I'm like, I did that, I said that, I'll read it later and I'll say that doesn't even sound like me.
Wow.
But it's a zone you go into. Maybe it is me in another, um, attitude with another type of mode of my own brain, or maybe it is something coming through me. But there is a book written, I don't know the name of the book right now, but this lady, she was like a prairie girl, farm girl, she wasn't literate at all, and she started writing all of this eloquent poetry and she got it published. And she said that this entity, this other woman, was writing this poetry through her. And I really do believe it because she wasn't literate.
Wow.
And this other woman gave her her name. And that woman was literate, but she had died.
Wow, that's so fascinating. If y'all think back to some of the best times of music history, I'll never forget. My father put me and my little sister in a PWI high school, and we went on our first field trip. Um, to overnight. I never did an overnight field trip in the school in the inner city. I didn't know that was a thing. But we went on our first overnight, and one of the little girls was trying to like on me, a little white girl trying to like on me, and we was in the bus, and she put her those of you old enough to remember the Walkman headphones. You remember the big old fuzzy headphones we used to have back in the day? She put them fuzzy headphones on my. It's like, listen to this. I was like, what you doing? And she said, just listen to this. And she played Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and I have never heard anything like that since. They got high shit when they're writing Dark Side of the Moon. If y'all listen to it, that album is so in tune. It's on a whole nother zone, a whole nother level, the way the music sounds, you know. And at that point, I kind of fell in love. It's a little guilty secret, but I guess it's not a secret anymore. I fell in love with Pink Floyd. I still rock Pink Floyd to this day. There's nobody that sounds like them. Furthermore, let's do the sober version of trances caused by music. Do y'all know that Jimi Hendrix um he got the eye of the a three-letter agency because at his concerts people were having weird experiences where they transcended time. What I'm trying to say is Jimi Hendrix, who was influenced through psychedelic drugs, was able to play on such a magnitude that people were reporting like having out of body experiences at his concerts. Did you hear about that, Wani?
No,
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't.
And Bobby Hemmett posited it. That's why he got taken out. He got taken out because he was transcending time with his music. Very interesting
That's
stuff.
bizarre.
Yeah.
So back to the sensitive topic.
Uh-oh.
Um, I just want to, begin by saying because we came from different uh, origins, we came from different backgrounds and origins, and it all intersected here in
Right.
North America. And so, because of that, we got a lot of different stories about our backgrounds. And really, if you really don't know, it opens it up to a lot of fantastical tales that you were kings and queens. And the odd part about it is, yeah, we were, because kings that didn't like their wives would throw them on the slave ship.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so some people are from royal families. In fact, a lot of people could be from African royalty or anything. You could be from anything, anybody they could grab up. But one thing is true, we're not all from one chunk. We're not one group. We're not one fantastical tribe from the Levant area or from Arabia. We're simply not one group. Just like in my case, my four grandparents come from four parts of America and they have four different stories. And that's why I have a lot of different African countries listed on my DNA profile. It's not, it's more than the average person because those ancestors came through different ways and they really weren't related at all. They weren't even in the same area with each other. So that's number one. We have different points of origins, and that opens the door when you don't have DNA and genealogy for people to make up stories and then put everybody in the same box. We're all from this area. We're all from here. We all did this and that, and we all didn't.
Right.
So, what I read is that 30% of people coming over here were Muslim, okay? But the Moors were over here uh, being slave sellers,
Oh, I'm
and
gonna
they
get in their
also
ass in a minute, but carry on.
overseers, and were also uh, petitioning to not be treated like Black Americans.
Hello.
Okay, in the 1790 Sundry Act. So they didn't want to be associated with us unless they were selling us or overseeing us or something like that. But because they had a different status, a lot of people called themselves Moors, right? Because they didn't want to be associated. People also called themselves Turkish and Portuguese because they knew that those people were sometimes darker skinned white people and with curly hair. So if you were a lighter skinned black person, you might call yourself that. And if you were a darker skinned black person, you might, or a lighter skinned black person, any kind of black person might call themselves a Moor to get out of being Black American because it was very detrimental to be a Black American. You could be put back into slavery if you were free. And if you were, even if you had papers, they had corrupt slave catchers. So let's just stop there at the void that was left is that now people can come along and say that you're all kinds of things that you're not. Now we have the benefit of genealogy, we have the benefit of real paperwork, and we have more access to information about our background. So this isn't, something like Sarnetta can just sit up there and talk in circles for hours and hours and hours and just keep coming up with new types of ideologies and then just basically driving people insane,
Right.
just basically driving people insane and not providing anything but emotion and calling you a Jezebel if you challenge them. They just don't have anything to say. I did invite three people into the room to debate their side of it, but none of them wanted to touch it. Nah, I mean, I think they need some oven mitts to touch this because we're about to go
Oh,
in
oh, oh,
point
oh, oh,
blank.
I got one name for you. That I'm busting out today. I'm busting out J.A. Rogers, baby. So put on your bulletproof vest because it's gonna be some bullets flying up in this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And don't wear that little shit. You better put on some strike plates, some level 3 armor, because J.A. Rogers information is armor piercing. You hear me? So before I get started with J.A. Rogers scholarship, I want to make a disclaimer since this is being recorded. I have nothing against any religion. I support all religious beliefs and freedoms. It's not my intention to diss anybody's religion, nor to try to speak against anybody's religious belief practice. If you are a member of the religious practices that I mentioned, I wish you well, and I support you in your venture to enlightenment. However, we're going to deal with the topic at hand and hit it with scholarship. Got it? So let's get started. We're going to go with a very rare book by J.A. Rogers, in which he says, where was I? Uh, so back to Wani's point. What was the group you were having an issue with, Wani? Was it the Hebrew Israelites?
Yes. Have the same person that wants to argue points but doesn't want to argue it publicly. And when he did argue his point, he said, if he asked me a question and I said, if I prove you wrong, will you stop? getting in these rooms and spreading this lie about our lineage? And he said, yes. Well, guess what? I proved him wrong and he disappeared. He didn't want to come in any rooms I was in anymore because he asked me a point blank question. I answered it and he didn't like the answer, so he just disappeared. He didn't keep his word. He said he would stop talking about us being from these areas that we're not from. And I don't know what to say about him. It's just not, he's not a man of his word. He said he was going to debate it. Now he says he can't, even though he's right there arguing with me in the timeline.
Mm. Well, you know how I do. I'm dealing with the scholarship. I'm looking at words. So I already told you what Hebrew meant. Hebrew, for those of you just coming in, was a basically a word that designated her web, who is her, the great spider, Mother Zoodokias. We know her as the zodiac. There are 12, maybe 13 locations in space time. It's debatable. These 12 locations are referred to as the zodiacs. For instance, right now we're in Aquarius. We've already been over this. So let's deal with Israelite. Now, um, what's the meaning of that word? Well, this is kind of complicated. The word Israel is a well, you have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, that the Greeks, when they invaded what is known as Egypt, the first thing they did was attack it by renaming. Now, we had a whole space on the power of renaming. Antonio Gramsci proved in his masterpiece that warfare begins with words. So the Greeks waged war on a black culture in Kemet by naming stuff. Let me give you a good example, and I'll leave that issue alone. We know the Sphinx. Uh, the Sphinx is the mystic animal, half man, half animal, and guarding what is known as Egypt, which is actually Kemet, but or Tamari, however you want to do that. But the Sphinx. Let's observe that word. The Greeks named it Sphinx. A sphincter is something that strangles, it squeezes tight. For instance, your anus is a sphincter, right? So the Greeks were dissing the Sphinx by calling it something that strangled. It was something about the that entity that strangled Greek culture. Well, it's a mystery, but like Professor James Small said, history will erase the mystery. So to understand that mystery of why the Greeks would name it basically something after a butthole, you have to realize what the real name was. The real name is Horamaket. Horamaket. And Horamaket means Christ on the horizon. What does that mean? It gets deeper, ladies and gentlemen. The head is that of a black woman of Aquarius, representing Aquarius, and the body is that of a lion representing Leo. What our ancestors were saying was we're going to rise again when we're next time we come to Aquarius. When we're in perfect alignment with Aquarius, our body will be direct opposite of Leo. That's what they were saying. They were saying our time, ladies and gentlemen, is the time of Aquarius, enlightenment, ether, truth, brilliance, understanding. And guess what the fuck we are right now? We're in Aquarius. So why did I say that? I said that to prove that the Greeks name stuff for warfare. Instead of talking about a great Christ on the horizon, they talk about a butthole, sphincter. Got it? Now, let's look at the word Israel. The word Israel derived from Asrael. Asrael, which was a combination of the deity known, basically God. God was Asar. The Greeks renamed him into Osiris, right? So As, that's Asar. Ra, Ra is the radius God, the radius of the sun, like the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. God is viewed as a son, the giver of life. Like a plant can't exist without the sun. You and I can't exist without our gun. So first and foremost, Asra means Osiris, the sun, the life giver. El means Elohim, which means God, the Elohim. So basically, Asrael in translation meant the black sons and daughters of God. Asrael is a group of people, not a place. Throughout time, through the renaming of the Greeks, their warfare waged on Egypt, they renamed. They called it Isis. Isis, which she was. Isis's real name was Aset. Aset. but they renamed her Isis. Don't ask me why. I don't even bother to look. But it's Aset, Ra, the radius of God, Elohim. So it was taken out of context. And but my point is to really identify that Israel is not necessarily a place, it's a people, it's a group of people, and it means the black sons and daughters of God. That speaks for itself. I need not further elaborate on that. Now let's go to J.A. Rogers before I move on. According to J.A. Rogers, in his masterpiece, 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro, and look at this in bold letters, he puts, with complete proof. Take that. Uh, J.A. Rogers is one of my heroes. Most of y'all never heard of him. J.A. Rogers says on page 14, he has an essay called Jews and Ethiopians. According to J.A. Rogers, the characters of the Bible are largely Negroes. The Jews were slaves to the Egyptians for nearly 430 years, period. Only 70 Jews went to Egypt with Jacob. The Bible says that 600,000 men left with Moses. According to Hofstaffer, meant a total of 3.1 million and some change, with women, children. For this large number have left mixing with Egyptians who were black. They must have taken place on a vast scale. About 12 million Negroes were brought to the New World. Imagine how much of their original color and culture would later take them with them. They should return to Africa. So basically, J. Rogers is identifying that. Ooh, this is such a touchy subject. You're right. I got to weigh my words heavily on this one. That the J. Rogers made a yeah, I'm getting time like J. Rogers made a distinction between two different groups of people, and according to J. Rogers and the scholar Hofschafer, um, the people known as Jews were sent to Egypt for to work, for labor purposes. So we really have to, before we start talking about issues, we have to understand origins. Origins are um my my issue. The Falashas, according to J.A. Rogers, or Negro Jews of Ethiopia, led by Queen Judith, put the line of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba off the throne of Ethiopia in 937 AD and ruled for 40 years. The Falashas assert that they are the original Jews. They call themselves Beta Israel, or the chosen people. So, Wani, given the fact we
A
just
lot.
go ahead.
Beta Israel.
Bravo,
Mm-hmm.
Beta hyphen Israel, the Beta Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this is because we need to identify the origin of people. You can't just come calling yourself something. We have to look through lineage and origin. J. Rogers also says, "quote The Negro Jews of India are not permitted to enter the same synagogues as the white ones, nor bury their dead in the same cemeteries." I had no clue that there were people of that faith in India. So
You
that's
know,
go
you
ahead.
know why
Why?
they're calling themselves Beta?
I have no clue.
Because Alpha would be actually related to that tribe, and Beta is a designation for people that have a history of being Jewish but don't have a bloodline.
That's very fascinating. So, with all due respect, I have a question, and I mean no harm. I'm just literally trying to understand, gain some understanding. So we just identified the Alpha bloodline, who, according to J.A. Rogers, were um, he uses the word slave to Egyptians. Um, Bobby Hemmett, according to Bobby Hemmett, uh, that name derives from their ability to make jewelry for the Egyptians. That's according to Bobby Hemmett. But what we just identified is the Alpha lineage of Jews, and also J.A. Rogers helped us identify the Beta lineage of the Falasha Jews. So now that we have that established, my question to Wani is, where do Hebrew Israelites fit into that lineage? Are they Alpha or Bravo?
They're not. They have nothing to do with it.
Oh wow, could you explain?
You mean the people in New York that scream on the corner?
Yeah, what lineage are they?
Black American mostly, and some Caribbeans.
How's that
So,
work?
well, one of the problems with their point of view is that people would have to go, they'd have to be related to someone in, Canaan. They're Canaanites. So they were Canaanites and they were worshiping those bovines that we discussed before, remember?
Right.
Baal,
Uh
Moloch,
oh.
Yahweh, and Asherah.
Uh oh.
And then one group, within that group, they were worshiping all four of these, and it does show in a cave that they were all worshiping these four deities. And then one group decided that they just wanted to worship one deity,
So
and they branched
this is
off.
fascinating, Wani. Let's stop right there so I can get a complete understanding. But don't lose your train of thought because I'm gonna let you continue in a minute. What I'm hearing you say matches what I teach my in my ancient world history lecture. So you're telling me that these Canaanites, um,
Mhm.
wow, they came into Kemet and
Now, I want to point
go
out
ahead.
these people would be of African descent. This is not an Arab area,
The
and
Canaanites,
it's the Canaanites. It's not an Arabs weren't there at that point like they are now all over the area. This is a an area that was not filled with Arabs, and so the people in the area would have to be of African descent because there's no other choices. This is before Arabs invaded. So the argument is not that the original Jews, so to speak, were of African descent. It's which kinds of Africans. You could, say that somebody is of African descent. It doesn't have anything to do with us. So we find out that someone is from Kenya, that doesn't mean anything to us because we're not Kenyan. So
right?
what we're trying to establish is that these Canaanites were worshiping El, Baal, Moloch, and one group of them wanted to branch off and do their own thing. Now, in that group, another group branched off. They went to Yemen and ended up in southern Africa, not South Africa necessarily, but southern countries in Africa, like Zimbabwe, South Africa, and other places. That group is still alive. They're called the Limba tribe,
Mm,
and they tested their DNA, and they are direct descendants. But Ethiopians are not. Not as of yet, even though they also have this history of being Jewish. They're not considered Alpha Jews because they don't have that lineage. These people are. Now, the other people branched off and they went, as you know, through Europe to now they're mostly they're mostly European. They don't even have any of this DNA. So that's a big chunk that went through Europe and Russia. Um, and then the people left there are kind of the people that you see fighting over there today.
mm.
They're mostly of Arab descent because now they have been washed off through the Arab invasions to that area. So they don't have anything. All of these things have happened. Um, and the transatlantic slave trade has nothing to do with any of these people's movements. We're not from Zimbabwe. We're not from South Africa. We're not Limba tribe people. We're not Arab. We're none of these players in this game, and their movements happened before the transatlantic slave trade. So that's why we don't have anything to do with any of these characters. If anything, if you want to talk about being related to biblical characters, we're related to the King Ramses III and the Imara
Egyptian,
mummies. We're
yes.
related to the other people that, not the Jews. We do have relationships, old lineages connected to those Amarna mummies and King Ramses III. Like I said, we do have royal ties, We could be related to West African royalty because of the fact that we know that those royal families sold their family members out of spite. We could just be an African peasant that was picking flowers in the wilderness. And we also are from some of these, for we don't really know the reason why this DNA keeps popping up as a relationship to King Ramses III. Perhaps one of his family members got caught up in the mix. I really don't know.
Well, that's very fascinating, Wani, because we have people claiming to be the wrong lineage when we also, which is the same thing that FBAs have come up with. Stop claiming to be something you're not. When you just, if you reflect on who you are, you have the most powerful story in history. You know, I believe what you say about the original Jews being black because for something a very wonderful story by Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen took a hiatus at Cornell to do a little research. Well, Dr. Ben Yakinen spoke the languages in the Middle East, Arabic and Ethiopian, a lot of languages, and he disguised himself as I forgot if it was a janitor or some I want to say janitor, but he took a job working for a very rich sultan or something and pretended that he was a like a very low low status ignorant person. He took on an acting role for a year basically, and he snuck. He later reported to Dr. John Henry Clark that the books at the Library of Alexandria still exist. He said they burnt the library down, but before they burned it down, they took the books out. Now these books still exist in secret collection, but what I want to tell y'all is about these Canaanite, these groups. Ben Yakinen went downstairs to a rich sultan's private collection and saw a statue of the quote unquote the Hexos, which we're taught are Greek. You know, white people who invaded Africa and basically what Wani's talking about, who destroyed Egypt, Kemet, and destroyed civilization, were always depicted as the Hyksos, the white men who rode horses, And Dr. Ben Yakinen said when he went downstairs and looked at that statue of the Hyksos, he walked in the back and it had long braids and dreads down his back. We attacked each other, ladies and gentlemen. That's why Egypt fell. We turn on each other first.
I was just gonna say they found some ruins. This is why they know that the Jewish people were worshiping these four deities before they branched off. They did find some inscriptions that said the House of David and mentioned people that we know to be Jewish, um, words or names, inscriptions, and they did find them right along with the others. Now, when we speak about the race or the perceived race of the people that were in Canaan, yes, they would have to be of African descent. But when you start talking about what was happening in Mecca or where the Islam began, those people would be more like what you call Arab, even though they wouldn't be as light as the Arabs that we see today. They would have some darker skin because over time, they've gotten quite light over time. They would be brown, but then you would start to see brown people with curly hair and a range that was pretty tight. And now you see people that are very fair with straight hair. So they were, you would say they were a little bit lighter and they had a range, but you would not classify anybody during that time at the inception of Islam as being white or white looking. They would still be browner people.
That's very fascinating. On Doctor, I'm trying to figure out why Doctor Malachi Z. York said that the Canaanites were white. Maybe they became white over time. Um, Very fun.
Yeah, they're Arab now.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I mean, how could they be white? The white people hadn't, the Arabs hadn't invaded the area, and the white people hadn't come down to the from the Caspian steppes or the Caucasus.
Wow. So basically, like every other story from the United States of America to Haiti, the reason why the great civilization of quote unquote Egyptian civilization fell is because of some fucking ops turning up. Wow. When we gonna learn? Um, last part of the state. I want to kind of open up the last little part of the space. Says, are Moors allies or ops? Check the history. Well, let's go back to J.A. Rogers and let's talk about a Moor known as Tibu Tip. You heard of him, Wani?
Yes, he says he's Arab.
Well, J.A. Rogers calls his ass a Negro. According to J.A. Rogers, Tibu Tip, a Negro trader in the slaves and ivories from Zanzibar, East Africa, was the first civilized man to penetrate the center of Africa. He explored territory as large as the United States. Stanley Wiseman, Cameron, and other white explorers followed his path. So, again, that just shows that historically we're looking at Tibu Tip. I don't know the year, but Tibu Tip was no friend of ours. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say real fast. Do you think he was classifying himself as Arab as like because he was wealthy from selling humans? Because every time I show his picture, they're like, "Oh, he's half Arab." Then he doesn't really look half Arab.
Shit.
Not for that time frame. He looks fully of African descent.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you get, I call it the Sammy Sosa effect. You get enough money and you just make yourself what you want to
Hmm.
be. Um,
Yeah.
Jay Rogers don't beat around the bush. He cuts straight to the point. No apologies, no explanations. Jay Rogers calls him a Negro. What that mean? Anya, sorry, what's on your mind? Anya, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Go,
my bad. I got my son up in here. But I
go
was,
ahead, bro.
yeah, you guys giving excellent information. Take that in there. Take that in there. Hold on, guys. Yeah, so a lot of the things, because I studied Bobby Hemmett, Yosef Ben Yakin, and John Henry Clark. One thing we gotta understand is um, it took over 32 dynasties, one of Kemet to fall. It wasn't just us. The Hyksos were the Setians, the Typhonians, and in some of Yosef and Yakin's book, he did say some of the Hyksos were Typhonian and uh, Cushite, because before Egypt you had Nubia in the Cush Empire, and that's the grandfather of Kemet is Nubia. Before you get that, so it was a older lineage of people that were reclaiming that area, and they went to war a little bit. But what really weakened Kemet was a series of attacks from the Arabs, the what's the Mongolians, and finally the Greeks finished it off. And there were infighting after the 13th dynasty of Akhenaten, because we were splitting the worship of solarhood from the Great Mother.
Right.
The Great Mother, and that's another thing. Not everything that's a bovine was Baal and Yahweh. You had Het Heru, you had Hathor, which represented a cosmic presence above us. So some of those archetypes, we got to understand the archetypes, because I'm a metaphysicist. I look into what's beyond just the physical, and I teach classes on that. And archetypes and symbolism, some of that is reference to something beyond the physical. It's referencing physics, how energy interacts and compacts itself in different spaces and
Hmm.
pour into us and unravel in the themes of our characters, and what who we play down here as far as archetypes as well. So that's another thing. As far as what you guys saying earlier, we do have a connection to all of that. I'm speaking about Black Americans. Genetically, 41,000 years ago, they were doing what I'm not saying this 41,000 years of research that, what they figured out, not 41,000 years of research, is that our genetics have a tie to something called E1B1A. And there's a few books that white people wrote. You can get a book by a white woman if you want a scholarship. Her name is, um, she wrote the book Celestial Ship of the North. Her name is slipping my mind right now, but she wrote, the book title is a Celestial Ship of the North. And what she did, she took all 7 books of Gerald Massey, the only white Egyptologist that said that these people were black people. That's why he got ostracized out of universities. They won't put his literature, even though his literature is like the most spoken about in academia behind the scenes. Then I say, take that in there, take that in there, buddy. Take that in there. I see it. I see what you're doing. So that, yeah. So the Celestial Ship of the North took all 7 of Gerald Massey's books, composed it in one, and she said the Negroes in America, page 32, they are the Israelites. They
Interesting.
are the Egyptians. Matter of fact, there's another book called, you can get a book called, what's the name of the book? Theodore P. Ford, God Wills the Negro.
Hmm.
Theodore P. Ford proved that there's ethnological evidence that we are also the
I'm glad you
Egyptians.
said that. I have that book and I downloaded it and I hadn't opened it. Man, thank you for saying that. Go ahead.
No problem. In the book, it says, if you look at the phenotypes of these people over time, they did a study on our phenotypes back in the 1940s and the 30s, that they traced the genetic drift of the Kamites into West Africa and other places. But the ones that did go in that region of West Africa, it says that the other West Africans that settled there before them offered a servitude, indigenous, what do you call it, indentured servitude,
Yeah, that's it.
to those people because they weren't from there. So, like for a couple of hundred, 100 years to 1,000 years, they were over there. And when the Europeans showed up to claim that area, they offered those Egyptians up that was working off the indentured servitude, because they said those people are not even us anyway.
Divide and
So
conquer.
they put the children of the Egyptians that traveled in that area and sold them to the Europeans, and ended up us coming over here and mixing in with some of the indigenous blood. So they did a book on, it's called God Wills the Negro. They looked at our faces. They looked at why did we get into the Egyptian stuff during the first Afrocentric wave. It was because it's, with genetics, we were remembering some of these things. The Africans on the continent, they didn't start that wave. We started that wave. We made it popular to put an ankh in your house, to talk about pineal or third eye information, all of that type
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, Ani, I've been saying that. You know who else proved that was a late great Jacob Carruthers. At Jacob Carruthers was a very ingenious black man. Um, got a PhD from University of Denver when we didn't do it. When black people, we weren't getting PhDs, and he played like a certain animal that people, he played the raccoon role because he had a mission. So Jacob Carruthers got an appointment at the most powerful university on the planet, called the University of Chicago. Like our brother Mark Carter says, Harvard may Harvard may advertise like a Mercedes Benz commercial, but University of Chicago don't even advertise, because if you don't know about it, you don't need to know. Well, Jacob got his little diversity or uh, appointment at University of Chicago and played just I'm a black dude. I don't know nothing. I'm here just because I'm black. And got his ass downstairs in that secret collection, and he just forgot to tell the white administrators that he spoke hieroglyphics. He spoke Medu. He
Mm.
bust them books open and found out everything that you just said is true. Matter of fact, Jacob Carruthers did a study on black women in Chicago, which really mean black women from Alabama and Mississippi. And he said the phenotype was identical down to the way they stood when they were yelling at their man. The Egyptian, the Camite women put their hand on their hip when they were yelling at their man. Take that.
Did they let their backbone slip?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. That's wild.
One quick note I wanted to make: if you do your DNA and you see Ashkenazi Jew, that's not Jewish. It is, but it's descending from Europe. So it's not the
So
original.
Wani, have you heard of E1B1A?
Yeah.
What is that? Is a lot of Black Americans have that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what I heard, I don't know what you heard, one because I want to hear, because you guys are the genetic experts. From what I heard on understanding it, is that that is like the, like, you know, you put a uniform to go to to work at a place like Walmart or whatever. You have a uniform. They saying that that is the uniform genetically of an Israelite. Have you heard that before?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's the same. That's also called V38. And that's the one that links us to that King Ramses III and those Amarna mummies. And that's a very common one. That's not a Jewish haplogroup, but I will tell you what is a Jewish haplogroup. This one, let me find it. J, their haplogroup is J1 and J2. Let's see. Yeah, it's J1 and J2. And they have this familial line called Cohen model haplotype, which is an additional thing that tells more about their background. But yeah, it's J1 and J2. That's the Limba males in Southern Africa. And like I said before when I was talking, that group just happened to say, we're out of here. And they wanted to be traders in Yemen. But Yemen had some sort of drought or some natural disaster that made them go back into sub Saharan Africa and settle in Zimbabwe and other places. And the other Jewish people, they went to Europe and Russia, and then the people that we see over there fighting today are people that didn't leave the region, and they've always been there. They're Arab because of the Arab invasions.
Hmm.
Okay. And I also heard that um the debate that I hear from Hebrew Israelites, because I don't, you know, subscribe to none of that. I feel like all of that is a little bit true. Listen to our master teachers, all of it. We're an amalgamation of a lot of things. So we can't say, well, one thing, but we do have a distinct lineage here. But I heard that the sub-Saharan, or the generic African, as Tyreek will put it,
Hmm.
is Ham in the
Okay.
Bible, and that we are Shem. What is your knowledge on that?
No, my knowledge is that they just make things up. I'll go into that in a minute. So I just want to give a time frame. We're talking about 3000 to 2000 BCE in Canaan. And so who did you say said the Canaanites were white?
Malachi Z. York said that. He,
Okay.
yeah.
So white people hadn't even, they're not in that area. So they couldn't be there. They couldn't be white because they made their move between 2000 and 1000 BCE when they went into southern Europe, and they didn't make a move to go into Canaan, or else white people would be. Why would they be white? Did he mean Arab?
I don't know. He said it in a lecture, so maybe
Okay.
maybe I don't
So,
know. He didn't give a
well,
time
see,
period.
a lot of people didn't have the benefit of all this DNA stuff. So that's probably one of the reasons. Yeah, they wouldn't be white, and I mean, they wouldn't even be Arab because, like we were saying before, all of these other people were sharing that land with the people that we know as Arabs. They've never been a pure people. They've always been surrounded by Bedouins, and they're still surrounded by Bedouins. They've always been surrounded by these more indigenous groups in the area, and they've always been invading those areas.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I wanted to, since we shifted gears just a bit, we're going to intertwine between the issue of the first topic, Hebrews, Jews, and Moors. But I wanted to hit y'all with a little Chancellor Williams. I'm bringing out the big guns tonight. Dr. Chancellor Williams to talk about these Moors. Who were these Moors, and were Moors our ally? Now, I just posited by using J. Rogers' um, quote to show that Tibu Tip, a Moor, was no friend of mine. He sold his people. He sold melanated people and was very brutal to them. And like Wani said, if selling his own kind was not enough, he tried to pretend like he was something else. Sounds like a traitor and an op to me. But let's shift gears to Chancellor Williams and find out who the Moors are. Who are these people? According to Dr. Chancellor Williams, page 207, The Destruction of Black Civilization, Williams says, now again, or should I say, quote, now again, who were the Moors? Dr. Williams says the answer is very easy. The original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were black Africans. As amalgamation became more and more widespread, only the Berbers, Arabs, and Coloreds in the Moroccan territories were called Moors, while the darkest and black skinned Africans were called Blackamoors. So, again, the Moors started out jet black, were amalgamated, and then there was a distinction made between them and Blackamoors when certain groups of Moors start becoming mixed up. Yeah. Dr. Williams says eventually black was dropped from Blackamoor in North Africa and Morocco, particularly all Muslim Arabs, mixed breeds, and Berbers were regarded as Moors. So it's a kind of a confusing term because it involves so many groups of people, but it's a good distinction to know that in the beginning they were black Africans with particular talents. Um, I saw Fuck All Whites a minute ago. Where'd he go? Okay. Fuck All Whites, you can come up. Until then, Capone, what's on your mind, bro?
Nothing, brother. Just appreciating the little scholar in the lecture tonight. But yeah. As far as these more situations, man, I had witnessed a few situations of them being ops trying to sell us these little sovereign packages on trying to get us out of, what we really are to something they want us to be. And, I just wanted to, appreciate the little lecture tonight, Sister Wani, brother. Professor Allen, I appreciate this is real good information, because sometimes, when you go into other rooms and hear these people talking nonsense, you want to be able to counter with some good knowledge that you could back up right away. And when you and Sister want to be spitting that hot fire, I just, like to listen sometimes, because I know a lot, but I just don't know enough. But, I appreciate y'all. I'm loving the lecture, Sister Wani, love you too. Professor Allen, keep spitting that hot fire, brother.
Oh, appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming. And I'm glad the gentleman brought a really Capone brought up a really good point. He discussed. I'm paraphrasing you, brother. Um, he discussed oppish behavior. I was standing in line over Walmart once, and I had a bow tie on. I was trying to pay a bill, but pay my Walmart card bill. But there was a brother behind me. He said, "What you do?" And I told him what I do. And he starts spitting history and stuff. And he said, "I'm a Moor. I'm with the Moor Science Temple." And he said, we're not really black, right? And I was like, "What you mean by that?" I don't tell everybody everything I know at once, but he was like, he gave me some advice. He said, "Brother, I'm gonna give you the game. I'm gonna tell you how to get out of this." And he told me to renounce my to get free of this in his words, this what he referred to oppressive system, was to renounce my American citizenship and apply for sovereign status. And I didn't say shit, but I was like, man, you're gonna get me arrested.
Right. I thought it was a terrorist organization for a second. I was like, y'all niggas is crazy.
Hell yeah, man. Like what he said, what it sounded like he was telling me to do is like to turn on America and become a terrorist. These people crazy, man. But our brother Tariq and she brought up a long. I wish I remember what Tariq said, but it's apparently there's this long history of the Moors having adverse actions towards Black Americans. Wani, what is that about? What am I missing? T-Boo Tip made it real clear. It's about like Ti said, if it ain't about the money, is that what it is? Is it about the money?
Well, oh, I thought you were talking about Taharka Bay.
Same difference. What's the difference?
Not much. Um, we, like I said before, because they had a higher status, they are slave sellers. And when you're enslaved and you have a lower status in a country, you're going to, not everybody, but you're going to try to claim to be somebody who will get the heat off of you. It is escapism, A lot of this stuff we're talking
Is
about,
escapism.
wanting to, have some sovereign status. I have a friend who was a sheriff in a town. He's a teacher and a lot of stuff, but he decided to be a sheriff. And he was mentioning that he had to unravel a lot of these squatting incidences, but ultimately, no, they don't have any rights to squat. And what they do is they really harm a lot of single black women. For some reason, they target single black women's homes. They'll just get in there and squat, and the person won't have a place to live, and they'll have to go to court. And by that time, the guys lived there for 6 months. So that's what they're basically doing. They're just taking advantage of their own community.
Very interesting. Come on, the Black. What's on your mind? You up, Black? What you got, man?
What's going on, Professor? Warning, everybody in the space. I really had a question.
Okay.
Uh, okay, knowing that, like, depending on the time frame that you in, more can mean like a a, a, a dark skinned person, and then like sometimes it can mean like a Muslim or a Turk. So when we use more in American contents, and let me see how can I put it? Depending on the the year that you're in, like the era of the century, how can you distinguish like who was considered a more in America?
Hmm.
That's a very good
Good
question,
question.
and you're right. At a point, uh, English people, for example, were calling anybody who was black looking or of African descent looking Moors. Like Sir Morian was called a Moor, and I don't think he was from North Africa. He looked to be from South Sub-Saharan Africa. So yeah, at a point they were calling anybody who was in Europe was being called a Moor, even if they were, straight out of Nigeria. But the word was supposed to be for people that were from North Africa. Someone like Tipu Tip would not be considered a Moor, even though he was saying he was Arab. He wasn't from North Africa. So technically, he was not called a Moor because I was trying to write down that he was a Moor and I kept being corrected by all of the sources. No, he's not a Moor. He's not from North Africa. However, if he just wandered into Europe at a particular time, he would be classified as a Moor.
Interesting. We're gonna go. Oh, did you land your plane, Black?
Yeah. That's really all I wanted to know, cause we since they was technically in America at a time, I just wanted to know like how can you distinguish them from depending on how they could blend in and who captured them. Like, how can you distinguish who was more other than like their religion? Because sometimes they consider uh, Turks Moors or anybody that worship Muhammad. They consider them as a Moor or something.
Yeah. That's a good question. Actually I don't have an answer. Capone, you had an answer for him?
Not really an answer, but a solution, my brother. But I like what we doing while we're out here with this reclaiming our lineage. We always do a check. Because now we have people, degrading us. So now they had their way of identifying. I like how we have our way of identifying by asking questions. Where you from? What time did you have to come in the house as a kid? Types, situations like that. And I land.
Yeah, I was black. The only bit of information I got for you is in America, the term Moor was described to me refers to your lineage, like if you were from Morocco or Mauritania. That's what an African told me. So I don't know if I really see brothers and sisters walking around calling themselves Moors outside the Moorish temple. But do the Moorish temple? And I'm not trying to be facetious. I just don't. I'm kind of ignorant on that subject. Do the Moorish
Oh
temple?
yeah, you good. I mean, I I ask out the wild crazy questions just so we can kind of like deep dive and think on a broader level. But I'm glad you kind of said that too, because Jan Johnson, the dude who first discovered Harlem with the Dutch, he was considered a Turkish Moor, but he flew under different flags because he was a pirate, and he had brought some people to Georgia with during Orthodox little time and help, and it was like a group of Turkish Moors that went to Georgia too. So that's why, and I know they got caught up in the little Seminole Wars. So that's why it does get kind of crazy because his his descendants split off into two different factions, a white faction and a black faction. And one of his descendants is John F. Kennedy's uh uh, wife.
Hmm.
Yeah, I post. I forgot who was his black descendants, but I'll post it in the jumbotron.
Wow. So you're saying Jackie Onassis was a descendant of a Moor? It's so much history we don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, her father was called Jack Black or something.
Wow.
Something, yeah,
Like Blackamore.
she got something going on. Yeah, she does. Did you see
Oh.
her hair?
Yeah.
Every time they have that tuft of hair like that,
Mm.
she's definitely suspect. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at some point they just admitted it. Um, yeah, that's actually a thing. Yeah.
Nobody hates like family. Well, that's very fascinating. A lot of things have come up that is just like so fascinating. Like what Wani said about escapism. I was sifting through Dr. Welson's book, and I have to paraphrase it for sake of time. Dr. Welson said that's what all this is about. The whole you know interracial dating thing is escapism. But that's the battle. The battle we're looking at a very
There's
old
no
war.
reason to escape anymore. We have a
Yep.
fantastical story. We don't have to make up a fantastical story.
Right.
We have a fantastical story.
Yeah, and that's what I'm starting to see is foundational Black Americans are starting for the first time in history that I can reckon. No, I don't know everything, but I see we're standing and we're making a stand and just intellectually saying, "Hey, this is who I am, and I don't give a fuck what you say." Now, I will give credit to the Haitians in 1804. They had a similar stand against the French, and we must always remember that the French was the best army in the fucking planet when they took that stand. But there is a lesson to be learned from the Haitians. The lesson is beware the fucking elite class. So Black Americans, if we're gonna learn from 1804, once we get the ball rolling with the whole lineage and delineation thing, once that gets rolling real good, we got to be careful with these elite class people because they the ones that took Haiti down. I was reading earlier. I saw some shit in Jacob Carruthers' Irritable Genie that fucking blew my mind. Basically, the elite class of Haitian suckered Dessalines into, I think it was the Dessalines, it was either Dessalines or Tucson, just suckered them into like getting killed. Like, how dare you do that? But these people are obsessed with their money and their status, and in my opinion, they cannot be trusted. But that's just me. What do I know?
I just wanted to say I put the some of these popular, um, like I said, Black Americans. I've never seen a Black American with a J1, J2 haplogroup. And I also, if you see Ashkenazi Jew, that's just a white person, basically, even though they are Jewish, but they have a lot of white, and those people married into, whoever, just like you probably might find that in Lenny Kravitz or Lisa Bonet or somebody like that.
hmm, interesting. Go ahead, Capone.
Yeah, and I was just mentioning, was just going off what Sister Wani was saying. We had talked about that not too long ago. How those Jews would marry the whiter Jews because they had better blood and to get inside their circles. So that mixing been going on for quite some time. And then again, to go off what you said, Professor, about traders in the mist. We don't have to go that far back to remember we got traders in the mist because as far as the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton was recent enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Traders is always going to be in the midst. Look at the congressional caucus. Look at these immigrants we got inside our politics right now working with the coons. I mean, look at the out here in California, look at the reparation sabotage. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like it was only one of us on the board of 15 ops, if that. So I mean, our coons is going to get bought out. These tethers is going to get bought out. Like I said, we only outside of our whole 42 million, we only got 5 million soldiers that's really with the business.
Hmm.
So we still outnumbered. But like I said, it's always a special force that gets the job done. Our people is a resilient people, and we're going to get it done one way or another. And I land on that.
Go
So
ahead, one.
I was just going to say, so we can go over the 12 tribes because when I speak to Hebrew Israelites and they start talking about the 12 tribes, and then I point out that that's not possible for what they're saying, they say, "Oh, I don't believe in that." So they like to, get down into sex and say, "Oh, well, my group doesn't believe in that." And I can't get them to admit to what they believe in because they're waiting to hear what I'm going to question to make a decision. And I'm wondering, why are you doing that? Why do you want to just lie yourself into a belief system?
Well, Wani, you just said something so powerful. Y'all remember when I opened, for those of you who weren't here, I opened with what does Hebrew really mean? Wani just proved my point. I said Hebrew means her web, the great, it is a map drawn out by our ancestors, um, that Wani posited they got from having trance-like states where they were connected with celestial energy, where they learned different things. How else could they chart the stars? Well, I said that Hebrew means her web, meaning the web of Mother Zudakias, who we know as a zodiac. Well, question: how many zodiacs are there on the map? Anybody want to tell me?
12.
Does 12 sound familiar? 12
What?
tribes, 12 zodiacs. Yep. Go ahead, the black.
Okay, you got me thinking now. Okay, I hate to do this, but like these religions, the whole synopsis of these religions is to claim that it's a specific group of people that's displaced from a promised land. All other lands that everybody else has a nation, land that they can connect to. Since America is the only landmass that quote unquote don't have a, a direct people that's fully connected to it, they can say it's exactly their land under these fake Native Americans. Isn't it like the whole premise of continue to push these fake narratives to keep the lie going of these people don't have a homeland or these people don't have a history?
Right.
Yes,
They
it's
want
a
us
big
to be a
finesse.
tribe.
It's you touching the tip of the iceberg, but it's a big finesse. Go ahead, Wani.
They're determined to say a falsehood, which is we are one solid group of someone, whether they want to say we're one group from the Levant region or the Middle East, or we're one chunk of people from somewhere in Africa. That's simply not true. There's nothing about that that's true. There's no
Yeah,
way to
cause
prove that we don't come from one group. Even if you do our DNA over and over and over and over again, it's never going to show one group of Africans.
see, this is what like kind of rubbed me the wrong way and made me not want to like honor my granny wishes and become a preacher. Cause uh, I was an apprentice under my uncles, cause they preachers, and you know we old school. We don't just go to the white men and feel like they should ordain us as preachers. We doing it in house, but it like learning the contradictions of all these different lanes of thought when it comes down to theology, and actually knowing that sometimes yes you do have to lie and fabricate a couple of things because it's always a passage, especially if you depending on what denomination of church that you under, because each denomination use different Bibles to include in their teachings. So if you using like the Book of Enoch or or just using the old 1602 version of the Bible, it can it contradicts a lot of things because a lot of things was misinterpreted, and we no longer use that language either. Because like the like the Nile River, it it doesn't mean. I'm trying to see how I can put it where I won't just like have have a Bible thumper come up here and get on my ass.
No, say what you feel. You're not your intent is not
I,
your
I
intent is
I
not to hurt
understand
anybody's
that, but I
feelings. Just
know
let it flow.
I know like religion is like politics and race. It's a very touchy subject, and people will cut you over it. It ain't like it's hard. You know what I'm saying? Trying to debate a Jehovah Witness because they gonna beat you up.
Now they'll probably call you a Jezebel or a demon.
Yeah, yeah. They gonna
Right.
curse. They when that voodoo side go out, they gonna try to curse it in the name of Jesus. But yeah, it's the fact that so like kind of like now how we use Egypt or black as blanketed terms. The now was like a blanketed term. A lot of these places that we think are these places today really wouldn't. You understand what I mean? Like they played a little musical chairs with landmass
Bingo.
and names with places.
And that the black that's why a language is warfare. You change names around and you do the musical chairs and you got people confused. You got people confused that one word that meant a group of people who made jewelry is associated with Israel, which is the black sons and daughters of God. You confuse those two words, and now you got a whole bunch of confusion. And what's confusion do in a magic trick? It lets you hide the money, don't it?
Yes, sir. And also when you think about it, certain words in Hebrew are English words in backwards. If you
I
didn't
didn't
know
know
that.
that. Tell them to me.
Yeah. Oh, what? Matter of fact, I got the video on my computer. Uh, I was watching this video of a Hebrew scholar in Israel, and he was explaining how a lot of old words in English are just when they was making the new version of the Hebrew language from Yiddish, because this is really what it is. It's just a different branch of Yiddish, because
Wow.
because the Hebrew that they speak today is not really the Hebrew that they spoke back then. The Hebrew they spoke back then is kind of like backwards English, or kind of like uh pig Latin.
Wait, which year? When you say back
I'm
then?
not for sure. I seen this video like 2 months ago, and I just downloaded it on my computer and put it
Whoa, whoa,
to the
whoa.
side.
How could
Yeah.
their original language be English backwards if it was? Oh, never mind.
Well,
I mean,
I,
I think like how they spoke it was
Wani,
kind of
I
like
did
certain words was
learn.
backwards.
I did learn that. I almost called y'all class. I did learn that English is a composite language that involved a whole bunch of different languages.
Definitely, yeah.
Mm.
It's mishmashed together.
Which is why it's so confusing. You know what I'm saying? Um, Cat
I
Williams.
mean, ain't that why they call it spelling? To put a spell on you.
Yeah, man. Cat Williams said had a joke back in the day, funny as hell. He said he couldn't he the teacher asked him to spell knife and he put Nife, and she said, "No, I'm taking points off. Knife is spelled Knmfe." And he said, "Bitch, that don't say knife, that say kniff." Go ahead. Go ahead, Housing.
Hello, everyone. Wani, Professor D Black. Wani, may I ask you a question? Actually,
Yes.
two. All right. One is this the way? Well, one thing I want to throw out there, you know, it's been said that that particular language, the Hebrews and stuff, it's no actual like history. Like it was just created out of thin air. Is that true?
The Hebrew language?
No, the Hebrew, just the Hebrew religion, period.
You mean being an Israelite?
Just Hebrews, period. Like they said, you know, the Israelites is the original people, and was it created?
They're Canaanites that branched off because they wanted to worship one bloodthirsty God instead of four bloodthirsty gods.
Mm-mm. I
Wow.
second
So
that. That's true.
one of them was they all wanted blood. One of them wanted children's blood. They wanted human blood.
And where did they go? My biblical scholars in here. What mountain did they go to worship? Somebody please say it. Mount
Mount
what?
Lion.
Mount what? Somebody say it.
Was it Sinai?
Sinai. You're right. There's no
Sinai.
there. You're right. There's no such thing as Mount Sinai. It never existed. You want to know what it was? It's the mountain of sin, the god Sin AI, baby. They worshiping
Wow.
Mhm.
sin.
I mean, it's a Mount Sinai in Utah.
That doesn't count, although it might
Maybe.
if we keep talking.
All right. So
But go
when
ahead.
when they try to push that on normal people, does it cause discrepancies?
Push what?
Their belief system.
Who? Hebrew Israelites?
Yes.
Uh, does it cause? Well, I just ignore them. They don't want to talk to me because they want to make things up. And then when I catch them, they want to say they don't believe in those. Well, we don't believe in that 12 tribes, or we have another 12 tribes, or we adjusted it. They actually told me that the guy hit his head and then he woke up and said that these are the 12 tribes. So that makes sense
So basically,
because,
it's a bunch of deflection.
well, they're not sticking to their own doctrine. I always lose respect for a belief system when they keep breaking off into sects and they won't admit to what their doctrine or their beliefs are. It's hard to follow them if they're going to just keep saying we don't believe that anymore.
Yeah, it turns into a. If I may add on, Wani,
Confusion.
it turns into a finesse. You know what I'm saying? It's do what I say
The
and
last thing we need is confusion when we have clear information now. We don't have to live like that anymore.
Right.
right, right. We're gonna go to some new
Well,
speakers.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Housing. You
No, I'm good. I'm good. I got that information. I'm here. I'm just listening.
okay, brother?
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you as well. We're gonna go to some new speakers. Let me hear Afro point of view, and then what Rob the Whip. Afro point of view. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir.
First, I want to say hello to everybody. Thank you for having me, Professor. Ms. Wani, I wanted to introduce myself to you and say hello to you all. I listen to you all the time, and I support everything you all do, generally speaking, especially the things you do on this app for foundationally Black Americans. I'm also a foundationally Black Americans, and I wanted to bring maybe a little context to. What I think a lot of people refer to when they say th- there may be some people what they refer to when they say they're part of Israel. So, is anybody here familiar with the Jacobites of England?
Yeah, I did some research on the Jacobites, and it's very interesting because they're all involved in the formation of the United States. They're a very
Exactly.
powerful group. They come out of
Okay.
France.
Oh,
Isn't that the Jamaicans?
No, no, Jacobians is what he's talking about.
yeah.
No, no, I'm
Okay.
talking about
So,
they got sent to Jamaica after the American Revolution when they lost.
well, some of them
Okay,
did.
Yeah, some
all
of them
right.
did.
But the large majority actually were exiled to the United States of America, United what would later be known as the United States of America, then the 13 colonies. In
I tell
fact,
you whose ass was all wrapped up with them was Benjamin Franklin's ass.
well, that was a later group. Those were the Reformed Protestants. So those were a different group. Those were a mulatto group that were in Europe that was allowed to stay because they had converted. They were conversiosos. They were also called Maries. They were all littered throughout Europe at that specific time. But the specific Jacobites, they were exiled after the exile of the Tudors and the Tudors from the throne of England. So they all fled to the Americas. In fact, the King James the first, second, or first and second, they actually started the Virginia colonies. It was first initiated in 18. I'm sorry, in 1607 or something like that by charter, by trade company charter, and then it was actually divided into 12 parts, and then or divided into 12 parts, and then they became royal colonies. So pretty much, Europe at this time was being invaded by the Huns. So these Huns, these people were from the Caucasus Mountains, and they looked different phenotypically than the people that were in rulership or the royal class. The royal class was described often as being swarthy, and these newcomers came in sick, and they were usually considered pale or even black because they didn't have identities. So say that to say that when people, I believe, when people, how you say it, book wise, say that we're part of the 12 tribes of Israel. What I believe they're trying to convey to you is that we're part of a people that was exiled partially. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have an indigenous ancestry at all. In fact, it was a practice of those people to marry indigenous people because here, and they will have split ancestry. So these people would then be able to have or own property on this
Well,
side of the.
let's start right
Okay.
there. First and foremost, I wrote about this extensively, so I put my Cash App in the jumbotron. I got like 55 books left. If y'all want to purchase my workbook that talks about our lineage, um, put your full address in our story publications. This is in Jumbotron. Make sure you put your full address with zip and your name and send $25 and I'll send it directly to you. I just sent a group of books. If y'all ever, if y'all purchased them already, I sent them out yesterday, so should be on the way. The reason why I brought that up is a gentleman said that posited that we have that lineage. We could have that lineage that links back to the original Jews, but
I wasn't saying
oh,
Jews.
okay. Well, I
I'm so
misunderstood you.
sorry.
Okay,
I'm not. I said Jacobites.
Jacobite. Okay, well, never
So
mind.
So you talking about the Huguenots?
the Jacobites, Huguenots are the Puritans.
You
So
definitely have you Huguenots.
yeah,
A lot
that's
of
part
people
of the
have.
lineage. So those are
Yeah.
some of the ruling class of Europe, the original ruling class of Europe. So but yes, those are some of the lineages. Also, those are some of the later lineage. Later, they were known as Huguenots and stuff, especially during the Protestant movements and stuff like that. But as I mentioned before, this you're talking about the Jacobites that started the Virginia Company, I mean Virginia colony, and then when then handovers, Germans took the throne of Great Britain, or not Great Britain, but England at the time, and which in turn was the start of the American Revolution. So a lot of people think that the America or the 13 colonies, it was actually originally 12. The colony of Georgia was added later on when King George III wanted to get
Well,
a
brother, it
bigger.
was 13 before Georgia.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
hold on. My head is
But
spinning.
hold on, but George,
No,
the colony
hold on,
of Georgia.
hold on. We're kind of getting off topic here.
We're way off topic,
Yeah,
but
and let me
what
collect.
is
Go
this?
ahead.
Is this another deflection to explain why people are saying they're Israelites?
No, I'm not deflecting, Wani, Miss Wani.
Okay,
I'm not.
no,
I'm
no, no,
not.
no. But are
I'm.
you saying that these Jacobites are the Israelites they're speaking of?
What I'm saying is those are the people that was exiled.
Uh,
Those are the people that they could be referring to. I'm not trying to.
But
All I'm just trying to do is bring
they have
like
a lot of support.
no. I'm not claiming. I'm not saying. All I'm trying to do is just bring a little.
Okay, just
Uh,
relax. I'm
yeah,
just
nobody's
want to
attacking you, bro. We're just trying to
I
understand.
just
no.
want to add another way to get out of it. Because I mean, I think they're pushed into a corner, and so they dump the 12 tribes narrative because we debunked that. Um for you to say, not you, but for them to say that Haitians are an ancient tribe, they're 500 years old. They're not from the Middle East.
Yeah, Haiti was called, and but that's what our sister Wani is saying. Is it's the stuff they're saying is easily debunked. Haiti was called. Doggone it, I knew what it was. It was called something else before Haiti. Well, not I'm not talking about the
I
European name,
forget.
Hispaniola.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
but
mean,
but but they called the
Santan
Haitians called
Domingo.
it some.
Oh, I thought
Haiti.
that's
I
all I
forget.
ever heard was Hispaniola.
Yeah, the French called it Hispaniola, but
Oh Lord.
Wasn't it Santan
I mean, you meant the
Domingo?
Spanish,
Cliff,
Professor.
oh, what
this
was
sounds familiar.
oh
The French
Saint
called
Domingue,
the
Yeah,
Saint
there it
Domingue.
yeah
is.
Saint
Yeah,
And
Domingue.
the
indeed. Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yes.
Okay, so the first narrative was the 12 tribes, and some of the tribes that they listed, one of them was Argentina.
Oh, that's not gonna work.
No, it's not, because they're Italian and they're not even, there's no indigenous people there. And so no indigenous people came from the Middle East, went to the New World, and formed what is now known as Argentinians. So when they made that up, they were just grabbing up any South American countries that sounded good for the made up story, but they didn't know the ethnicities of the people living in those countries now. So Uruguay, there's a bunch of white people over there.
I
They
completely
killed
understand. I'm just
they
saying that those are the places where those exiles went or fled to.
where
Like
Uruguay?
King Charles was in Peru. So King Charles, if you look at the stele, the Peruvian steles of the Aztecs or whatever the people, not the Aztecs that was down there, but the whatever the Inca. The Inca, you have King Charles the Fifth that's on it. So these people, and King Charles was a descendant of, was a tutor. He was a Jacobite, who you would call a
Wait,
Jacobite.
so,
Jacob is one of
but
the
we're
12
talking
tribes of
about,
Israel.
okay, you're talking about one person, right?
No, we're talking about a whole lineage. So
King
we're
Charles has
talking,
a whole lineage in Peru.
yes. In fact,
Oh
he's the
Lord,
start. King Charles the Fifth
I
is the
can't do
start
this
of the.
anymore. Can we stop
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
minute?
yeah. This is, sir. I teach this for a living, and I'm not going to say you're wrong, but this is the first I've ever heard. So if we're going to unpack this, it's going to have to be on another stage, and it's going to have to be one bit at a time. I thought King Charles went to. Never mind.
Never
That's not what.
mind.
Yeah. Anything you want to say else? Any you want to land your plane, sir? Going once, going twice.
Yeah, yeah, it was a pleasure talking to everybody. But King Charles was the start of the Tudors, so that was the lineage
Well,
that was birthed
sir?
later
What does
on.
that have to
So,
do with the meaning of Hebrew and Moors being
the
allies of ours?
Jacobites being the 12 tribes, the remnant of the 12 tribes of Israel. These are the people that was ordained by God to rule Britain.
Nah, sir. The from what I my studies, it was never a 12 tribe. It's 12 zodiac and Mother Zudakiah. So
I understand that, but I'm just saying it could be a mis. I mean, not even a mistranslate, but just a different translation on what I'm referring to. But what I'm talking about, and what I'm saying is that this people were exiled. Is said to be exiled for 400
got you.
years.
I do
That's all.
appreciate you. Have a good day. That was driving me crazy. Let's hear from Rob DeWitt. What's on your mind?
What's going on? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had to unmute my mic. So, I don't know if y'all remember, I'm come from a military background, intelligence.
There you
So,
go.
the Middle East was my AOR, my area of responsibility, because that's where we did all the operations over there. So, I'm coming from that mindset that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about tonight, I'm sure you know, you being a professor, was about siege of land, and
Absolutely. That's all this
so
is.
from King Nebuchadnezzar all the way down to the Roman Empire, which invaded. This is why I had to go to Naval War College to learn why the Middle East is in such disarray and why we're over there. So you got to understand the enemy, you know what I'm saying, before you go fight him. So I had to go through a 3 month course, which is part of my my job. I had to go to Navy War College for that, and we had a professor teach why things are so in disarray over there. So getting back to it,
I would love to do that job. So, quick question: you were naval intelligence.
yes,
Oh
yes, I
wow.
worked
You were
still,
the real intelligence, huh?
yeah, yeah. I had a TS clearance, and I did a lot of work over there. SEAL team support and Delta Force support.
Wow.
So
So,
getting back from Nebuchadnezzar all the way down to the Roman Empire, which invaded Jerusalem and Egypt. Uh, um, uh, the how can I say this? The Jewish people were black. That's like you can't debunk that. They were black skinned, but they were different tribes. Meaning you had African blacks, and then you had the actual Jewish blacks that were from the area of Israel, which is now called Israel or Palestine before
let me stop you right there.
1948.
Let me stop you right there because what you said, you weren't here earlier, I don't think. But J.A.
Right,
Rogers, back what you just said. Hold on, I'm getting J.A. Rogers' book. J.A. Rogers said, where is it? He said the characters of the Bible are, quote, the characters of the Bible are largely Negroes. The Jews were slaves to the Egyptians for nearly 430 years. Stop right
right.
there. So, according to Sheikh Anta Diop, I don't have that book with me. Sheikh basically said, I'm paraphrasing him, that this group of people that Jay Rogers just said was enslaved were named Jew because they made jewelry for the pharaohs. They were really good at making stuff like just
Right.
trinkets, jewelry. And what I'm afraid, I guess my question to you is there a distinction between the Australis, it was called the people, the black sons and daughters of God, the Australites, Austrial, and Jews? Is there a distinction?
Well, from what I was told, like I said, I'm come from the military aspect. I'm not at well versed in that. I just learned why things are screwed up. But if you want to go
Okay,
from a biblical aspect, and my mother, was a minister, so um, I grew up in church. She was Pentecostal, so fire
got
baptized
it.
holiness. So, but if you want to go by the Bible, A lot of the stuff lines up if you just follow the Bible, not the doctrine that is taught, per church. Everybody has their own way of teaching the Bible, and they dig out what they want to get their point across. But just from a military aspect, those people in that area that's now called Israel were black. Like, and that's undisputable. They were invaded so many times. They traveled to different areas, and when they traveled, they weren't accepted in a lot of parts of Africa. So they got moved on. So if you go down century to century, this is what the professor was telling us. Like, we are descendants of Israel. These people here in America, slaves, people down in Brazil, anybody who had anything to do with the diaspora that was spread out all over the world, basically. We are part of
And
that.
Israel, what location? Because we already said earlier, I don't know if you were in the room, we already said that the people there would be of African descent
Right.
because that's before any Arab invasions and any Europeans wouldn't be over there. So there would be no one else there. I can
Right.
hear talking on the stage. So that's not the argument. The argument is not whether they were of African descent. You can't just lump all the Africans together and then take the parts you like and say, oh, I'm related to them. You can't just say that, um, people have haplotypes, people have haplogroups, and people have DNA. We do share DNA with Egyptian people, but we don't share it with Jewish people. So there's just absolutely no connection unless you have a Jewish relative. But
So,
not to say we're all Jewish just because Jewish people are there. That's not where the transatlantic slave trade happened. You're ignoring physical movements of human beings. That's just ignoring physical movements. They
no.
dispersed from the area. We're not from the Middle East where the Jews are right now fighting. We're not from Southern Africa where the other Jews, like the Limba tribe, that is still of African descent. We're not from there. So how are we related to them?
So, wait
Just
was
because I know why though,
so
because it makes it comfortable to attach to the Bible. That's the reason that everybody is defending it because it makes you feel comfortable with the biblical characters. The biblical characters are still of African descent, but it's just
absolutely.
not us. We're not from every African group. We're from
So,
certain African groups. We're not
so,
from every African group.
so what I was saying is those people that are in that Israel, that are from the now country of Israel, that area, they weren't African. They were they were black skinned, but they weren't African. They didn't come from that continent. If you look at the Suez Canal, that's man made. So the area that they
Okay,
were
where are they
in,
from? Where are they from?
say again, they're black skinned, but they weren't African.
From
You know what I mean?
where?
Say again.
No, I don't. They have to be from somewhere unless they're from a spaceship,
I'm saying
which
they
I
were.
don't rule out.
This is what I was taught. This is what I was taught in war college. Those people that were there were of black skin, but they weren't African. They
Okay,
weren't Africans from the continent of Africa.
where
You
were they
know,
from?
they were from that area. You know what I mean?
From the
So
Middle East. They
they
were
were
from the Middle East.
they were from the Middle East. Yeah, what's now called
Okay,
the Middle
so
East.
okay,
All that stuff
so
was dissected up. Like I saw the map before
hold
the
on a minute. Hold on a minute. They're from
okay.
the Middle East, so they're from Canaan, because
So
that's what Israelites did. They branched off from Canaanites.
so that area that you're looking at over there looked totally different and had totally different names. That like I've privy to see the
We
actual map
understand
of
that.
what it all looked like before the Europeans came in
Maps
and
don't
cut it
have
up.
any maps don't have anything to do with it.
Right. I'm just saying. So you had different tribes of people in different areas before all these wars started. Before Nebuchadnezzar came down and
What
did what he did,
years?
and then the Romans came in and did what they did. Those
What
people were
years?
there. It's like us being here and somebody invading us. People are going to run. People are going to assimilate. People are going to get killed off. A lot of those people were murdered, and a lot of the ones who
We're,
decided to stay, they
we're
assimilated and converted to
okay.
Islam and the others.
We're moving all over the place right now. Stay focused. They were Canaanites. They branched off because they wanted to worship Yahweh only, right?
Yes, I guess yes. If you're going by the
Okay.
biblical aspect of it, yes.
No, I'm not going by the biblical aspect. I'm going by the caves where they are shown to be worshiping four deities and then one deity. I'm going by physical evidence of their presence in the area.
Okay, so you're talking about the people in the country of Israel back in the day, not now, but back then.
Canaan, in the area that would be Canaan.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about what is now the Middle East. They branched off, like I said earlier. Some of them went to Europe, and we know what they're about. Some of them went to Yemen and then left that area because of a drought or something like this, and they moved to South Africa or Southern African regions. They live across a few countries in Southern Africa. We're not related to Limba people. They're Jewish. They have the haplogroup. They have everything. So it's not a mystery. Like people want to make this a mystery. They are determined to make this a mystery. And it's not a mystery. People are African and Jewish, but it's not us. Just like the Ethiopian said, "Oh no, it's us. We've been practicing Judaism for all this time. We're Jews." They tested them, they're not Jews. So they call them beta Jews. They're beta Jews because they're not physically Jewish, but they have a long history of practicing Judaism. So
Preach.
then you're stuck with the fact that you're not Limba, you're not related to them, and you're also stuck with the fact that the other Jews that were over there went to Europe and turned into Europeans with Jewish, you know, some Jewish DNA. And then you have the other people that are over there now that are fighting on the Gaza Strip. That's the
Can I
and
can
we're
I ask
not
you
from
something?
them. So now you've run out of people for us to be from because these things happened before the transatlantic slave trade. So it's impossible for us to be from current Jewish people living there. We don't look like them. We didn't look like them 500 years ago. When the transatlantic slave trade was happening, they would be looking like Arabs.
So I'm gonna say this. Let me ask you a question before we go further. Do you believe? Are you a Christian?
That's irrelevant.
No, I'm
No,
just
it's
wondering because
irrelevant.
I'm
I'm telling you, it
no,
physically happened. You can't make up stuff because it's
I'm not.
comfortable. If things,
So
so
I'm not into the Bible
if,
like that. I'm a Christian. I
okay,
identify as a Christian, but I'm not really well versed in the Bible like that.
we're not
I'm
even
telling
talking
you,
about
like,
the Bible.
right. But those people, those people that are in occupying Israel right now are what's being said, and from what I was taught, are not actual
Okay,
Jews.
let me say this one more time.
Okay.
I want to say it one more time.
I don't know if I was in here when y'all broke all this down, so I probably wasn't.
Okay, we're speaking about a group of people that was in Canaan, the Levant region, 3000 to 2000 BCE. I'm going to give
Right.
specific dates, so this is easy. Now, during that time, one group branched off because they didn't want to worship Baal, Moloch, and the other one, um, Yeshira. They just
Right.
wanted to worship Yahweh. All of these gods wanted blood. Moloch wanted the blood of children. So that one group branched off. Part of them went to Yemen, and then they said in their legends that because of a flood or drought or something, they moved to Southern Europe. Southern Africa, sorry. And they live there now. You've heard of the Limba tribe, correct?
That's right. They're down in the southern region of
Okay.
Africa.
So that's where that group went. Now, the other people, the other Jewish people, they went through Europe. A lot of people did. Just like gypsies went through Europe, a lot of Jewish people went through Europe. So there's a big chunk of them that went through Europe. So you follow me on that?
Okay.
So now these things are happening before the transatlantic slave trade. So those people are out of the picture. Okay. So now we're stuck with these people that now look very Middle Eastern. And we're not disputing that over time, Arab people came down there and mixed with them. That we know they looked different before. But the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen 5,000 years ago. Okay.
So
And they looked like that when the transatlantic slave trade was happening. And the transatlantic slave trade didn't come from Palestine. These things
so
just didn't happen. The transatlantic slave trade was not located over there with those Jewish people and the
so
Palestinians. So how are we related to them?
okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm watching this fight. UFC is on. I'm a mixed martial artist. Um, um, those people that you're talking about, it was a big migration. People were running as far as war. We're talking war now. Those people just didn't settle in one spot like the Limba tribe. They were, yeah, they're tied to the Jewish community. They stay. Some of those stayed, and others migrated even further over towards Western Africa. So what I'm saying is, people, you got looking at a land that's been conquered several times by several different empires, and throughout that, people are all over the place. They didn't just sit in one spot, like you
So
said. They
you're
migrated
saying that so you're
all over the
saying that
region.
we're part that the Limba tribe went west and that's us?
I'm saying that there are, um, the way it worked is when those people started migrating because their homeland was taken. They tried to settle down in certain spots and they were ran out of it by the tribes that are already there. They didn't accept them. Some stayed and some even went further because they weren't accepted. They got tired of being beat on, so they
But
kept
you're not
moving.
giving, you're just saying things. You're not giving dates. You're not saying which
I
tribe.
mean, I mean, you can go now with AI. I mean, you can
Because
just
if you
jump in there
say, here's the
and type
problem,
in.
if you say the Limba, so far, all of the people that we know of in Africa that have put their DNA up to be tested have been tested. And they've been proven that only people that have this DNA are Limba people. So if you were to make the claim that the Limba people went over to West Africa and that's us, we don't have DNA like the Limba people. That's the problem.
I'm not just
They
saying the
have
limit.
They have J1 and J2. We don't
I'm
have
not
that.
just saying it's the limit people.
Well, who else is it?
You're looking at thousands and thousands of years of
Who,
forced
who,
migrations. So if
but the transatlantic slave trade is not thousands and thousands and thousands. It's 500.
I understand that, but you got to look at the big picture. If you're talking if you're talking war, right? I'm simply talking war because that's what I know, right? I know war. When you invade a country, people get killed, people assimilate, and people run. When people run, if somebody go to another country or to another area, they're ostracized and they become fourth class citizens. So they keep moving. Some just stay and simulate. Some get killed off. You know what I'm saying? And some keep moving.
What does that have to
So
do with their DNA?
over those thousands of years, you got to look at how many people got set from their homes and traveled all over the region from not just settling in West Africa, North Africa,
Well,
or South Africa. They kept moving. So you got to look at you're looking at thousands of years of migration, of forced
But they're
migration of a
not.
people.
But they're
Some
not
stayed.
saying.
I'm saying
Okay,
some stayed down there with the Limber tribe, and a lot of them kept moving further west.
but they're
And when
not
when
saying
they
that.
settled in those areas, some of them were captured. They were ostracized in those different areas, and those are the people that those tribes when they went there. Like, if I came to your home and you didn't
okay,
want me
okay,
there,
but
you would lock me up.
And now you're making the argument that these slave catchers were only targeting Jewish people
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm
Well, if I may interject, what I'm
in an
hearing,
orderly manner.
yeah, our sister Wani is making a lot of really good points, and what I'm hearing, since we're talking about warfare, is a certain group of people have uh, intertwined their history and, in some senses, their pseudo history with powerful religious ideology. So a lot of us find ourselves defending a group of people and defending a history because we have sentimental attachment. When, like Wani said, give me dates, give me times, give me specifics, and nobody can do it. I'm not attacking you, brother. Nobody can do it. It's just like there's an attitude of, well, it just happened. No, nothing just happened. We need to verify what happened.
so. If you look at if y'all want to tie in the religious aspect, which I'm not really into, I'm not clear on. I'm not saying I'm into it. I'm just not up to speed on that. If you're looking at why, if you want to know the why and the actual dates, it's a guy called Pastor Richard Nolan. He breaks down the whole that whole thing. If you can look it up on YouTube, it's like an
Why don't
hour
you
sermon.
just why don't you just tell us what he said?
Well, because I'm not gonna get into all that. People can y'all can do that on your time. But
It's a YouTube video.
it's not a video. It's a sermon that he did live.
Well,
We trace back.
what was
Anybody can say
He
anything.
what's it?
his name is Richard Nolan.
I
It's an
trust you,
hour
but
and a,
what's his source? Is he using the
his source. He's
Bible?
just going from the Bible.
That's
He's
not going
going
to
from the
work.
Bible to.
It's not going to
I'm
work.
saying he's tying the Bible into history, like with archaeology and just
But they're two
he
No,
different
has a
things.
timeline that he just goes
he
down.
cannot tie it into archaeology. That's
Well, he's
impossible.
I'm telling you what he did. If you can go look at it
No,
now,
he
if you can
didn't
debunk
do
it,
it.
what he's saying,
I
you can
can.
debunk it.
I just
But
did.
Yeah.
But you won't listen because you keep saying people were moving all around and everybody's all mixed up in a big soup and we can't tell who's who.
that's not what I said. I said that
That is kind
from
of
a
what you
war, from
said.
I'm saying I know war.
Me too.
That's what I do know. I know how to kill people. I know how people are killed.
That doesn't
And
have anything to do with
I'm saying
DNA.
in war,
People's
when you invade
movements.
a country, like those people in that area that's called Israel were, people just don't leave and come back.
Okay.
Some people stay and they move. You're looking at
Do you
thousands and
know the
thousands.
locations of the transatlantic slave trade? Maybe we should
Yes, yes,
start
I
there.
do. Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Do you
Yes,
know
came
the
from Western
locations?
Africa,
Do you know the location? Not
from
all of them.
Senegal all the way down to Ghana, all the way down to
They
the
actually,
the, the
there's
further
actually a
southern
lot of
African
countries.
regions.
There's actually a lot of countries involved, but that I just want to make sure we
Right.
know the places we're talking about.
But you're not listening to what I'm
I mean,
saying. I'm not
technically,
saying that
ain't
you're
them the
wrong.
places where they picked them up instead of where they got them? Because they could have
I'm
got them from anywhere.
I'm telling you
They
this.
warring
You
tribes.
you're looking at thousands of years of forced migration. You're looking at people that's been ostracized that were forced to move from country to country, from area to area.
Why do you
Some
keep
stayed, some
saying
left.
that? We already know that people moved around and were
Right.
ostracized.
Can you give
So
us some dates?
when you're saying I mean you can
Our
AI it now.
DNA shows that we are not from one group.
I
Why
understand it.
can't you understand that?
And I'm telling you, when you move, when people country is invaded, you have three options: you die, you assimilate to the new culture that's been taken over, or you move.
Well,
So you're
brother,
looking again,
we're not. I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with
right?
most of what you're saying.
So what I'm
But
trying to tie in,
we're hold on. We're getting off the topic. The issue that I heard was, are we them? Are we those Jews? And the answer that I heard was no. And I hear you counter arguing it, but we want evidence to prove
right?
otherwise.
So that Pastor Richard Nolan, he'll break all that down on why and what is what.
No, he will not because
Well,
it's not true.
if you
Well, yeah,
listen to the man, then you can debunk what
I'm
he
not
said.
going to listen to something that can't be possible
Well,
because you guys don't seem to understand how dates work or locations or where slave selling is happening. You just
right.
want to
And the
make
book
things up.
and the book that he's using is not history. It's not. It's a book of, and I mean this in the best, most
The
respectful way,
Bible
but it's
doesn't say that. The Bible's not going to verify any of
right.
that.
It's not history.
so
But even it doesn't say that anyway. They just, the Bible doesn't say that. So
so
we're not,
I'm not
It's
coming
kind of
from a
like
religion.
Israelites,
loosely based off what history.
Egyptians and Israelites are two different groups of people. We show that we have genetic ties to King Ramses III and the Amarna mummies, but we don't show genetic ties to Israelites.
That's a fact.
So what
So
do you want me to do? Just let you bum rush the conversation and say you do because you're in the military?
no, I'm not bum rushing anything. What I'm saying is again, and I'm gonna land my plane with this because I'm watching this fight. The main event's about to start. Um, when you invade a country, people run, they die or they assimilate. So you're looking at thousands of years again of forced migration. So for us to sit here and say that people left and then came back to Israel, that everybody came back, that's not correct. A
Wait
lot
a
of people
minute.
stayed,
Hold
and a lot of people
on.
went over to
Hold
Western
on.
Africa. A
Who
lot of
said
people.
anyone left and came back? You
That's
just made that up.
no, I'm not. I'm saying from what you guys are saying in this room.
No, 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 stop. I never said anyone came back. I said one group left and went to Southern Africa, and one group left and went to Europe. When did I say anyone came back?
I'm
Mm.
saying, I'm saying to you,
Nobody came back according to what I just said.
you guys are
Yeah,
tying
people,
in a group of people that's
people,
there right now, in Israel, with people that's been dispersed all over the world right now, and it's not going to add up the way you're doing it. But if you look at history at war and the way war works, people live, people assimilate, or they run, or they run.
those people
And
that are over there fighting right now have been there a long time.
since
They just got
1948,
they got just no before that. They just got mixed with a bunch of Arabs and then they got the country formed around their activities.
That's
so
true.
so this country Israel was
There are
reestablished in
middle there
1948.
are stop. There are Middle Eastern Jews that never left the area.
Mm.
They were assimilating to the Palestinian Empire,
That's fine. I
right?
agree with that. But they're still Middle Eastern Jews. And
But
they never stopped being Middle Eastern
but you
Jews.
look at if you look at bloodlines and DNAs, all that stuff was mixed up
We
between
we
King Bao.
did.
I mean, between
We
King Nebuchadnezzar, aka Bao,
we
right?
did look at them. They're
Right.
Jewish. Okay?
Okay. But again, you look at
They're
that
Middle Eastern Jews. They branched off from Arabs. What's confusing? They're Canaanites. They
before
branched off.
1948, for like 500
We're
years,
not
that place was
talking about
occupied by the Palestinians.
1948 is irrelevant. We're talking about the people there. It doesn't matter what countries you form around them.
I understand that, but however, comma, those people that after the Holocaust, that the UN when they came and wiped them out, said y'all got 30 days to vacate and put those people there. Those Palestinian people are fighting to get back home. They want their land back, and they identify as not as Jewish people. They identify as Palestinians.
They're Arabs, right?
But yeah, they practice the Arab religion, the Muslim religion, so they identify as Arabs. Yeah,
Mm.
but you're looking at King Nebuchadnezzar's people. That were taken over years before that, thousands of years before that. They
All right.
trace their lineage way back.
I
So
think we're kind of losing. I'm losing context with the topic. I think the argument being presented, and Wanda, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the gentleman's arguing that we are the descendants of the Jews because a war happened and we got dispersed or something. Is
Yeah,
that what?
some
right,
stuff.
I
right.
disagree with that because DNA proves against. I don't think we're the descendants of them. I think we're looking at something a lot bigger, and we're two distinct groups. Um, with we being foundational Black Americans, I don't think evidence shows that we're them. One, is there evidence to show that we have their DNA?
No, and in
I don't
fact,
think so.
the odd part about it is that Arab genetics is one of the least common things what you'll see in a Black American. And if you had a close tie to any activities in the Middle East, you'd show a DNA profile from there, something. It would just pop up regularly, just like that Egyptian genetic connection pops up all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a guy in Atlanta that was related to King Ramses III, and that just
Hmm.
popped up mysteriously. If we had relations to that other group, it would pop up mysteriously.
Exactly.
Pro-
Like the European haplogroup on the male side pops up all the time, 40% of the time, which lets you know what they were into. Native American, North American, Native American pops up all the time in different
right,
degrees, depending on your location. This is not some little secret thing we can play games with anymore. See, a lot of these people, they rely on people being ignorant and not knowing the new information. I mean, the ignorance was out there for decades, hundreds of years.
right.
It's not there anymore.
Age of
And
the
they
age of
can't,
Aquarius, baby.
yeah, we can see people's backgrounds.
Right.
We can see where people came from. And we know where they didn't come from. We know they didn't come from the Gaza Strip.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
and
Go,
all the way, hey, this was fun, you guys. But like I
go,
said, the
go
main
ahead and
event
land
is
your
about to
plane,
start.
Rob.
I'm gonna go
I
ahead and do my
appreciate you.
thing, but I wanna end with this. If y'all could tell Tariq on the way out, on my way out, that in this new year after the president gets in there, you know what I mean, I got a bad feeling, man. I mean, because the movement's starting to take off, and this thing with reparations is starting to get serious. No, and I just
Hmm.
wonder if y'all can lay, y'all got better touch to him than I do. Let him know, man, that he needs to get himself to arm himself. I don't know if he already is, and get some type of people around him that can protect him. Because whether he likes it or not, they see him as a leader and as a viable threat. And I don't want that brother to get killed. No, because anybody who tries that they see as that tries to unite us as a people, our leaders, they kill them off, and it's just a history that can't be denied. You know, and he needs to. I believe they might try to lock him up first, and they might try to get him in prison. So he needs to learn how to fight if he doesn't know how already. Take some type of classes, boxing, MMA, like I teach, man, and just get himself prepared for what may come. Because this thing is really getting serious, and a lot of white folks are mad. They get mad. If they give us that money, it's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to jump off behind that. We as a people need to get prepared, combat ready, not just verbally and be able to fight verbally, but be able to fight mentally, physically. You need to get in shape. You know what I mean? Because violence is coming, whether you want to deny it or not. Violence is coming if this thing goes through. So I'm gonna land my plane with that, man. Get ready, people, because with the good stuff going to come a lot of bad. So
As
peace, one
above,
love, and I'm
so
out.
below. Gotcha. Appreciate you, brother. We're gonna
Peace.
peace. We're gonna go to some of the new people. Dan Quay, what's on your mind?
Um, yeah, it was good. I believe there was some people before me, so
Oh, okay.
I want to be respectful of that.
Somebody new
So they
before
can go
you.
ahead.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Onyx.
Yeah, I got a question as far as the whole, Canaan, Yahweh, stuff like that. So, and the people around the region. Um, Wani, I think your name is Wani. I'm not sure. What is your stance as far as the whole who are Jews and who are not Jews? My thing is that I don't understand how people can be Jews. I'll put it like this: I don't understand how people could have lived in that region for so long and be so damn bright, or they can't survive in that region without some kind of, what I'm saying, sunblock. I'm not sure about all the intricate details, but some things just don't add up when it comes to people who live there now. I think people do move, what I'm saying, to and fro, and then it just becomes, what I'm saying, a mix up. Like for case in point, the people who live in Egypt, a lot of them are Arabs who came later. And what's your stance as far as all that?
Yeah, we said that earlier that the whole area that we were talking about, Canaanite, had not been taken over by Arabs. And so when the Israelites branched off from the Canaanites, they were the same people, so they would not be Arab looking and they weren't white. So there's really nothing left except to be of African descent. Were you in the room when we were discussing that?
Oh no, I'm just showing up right now. I
Okay,
just heard like the back
so
end of that.
so they were of African descent, and then like we were saying, one group wanted to go trade, and so they went up to Yemen, and they had some sort of drought or something like this, and then they ended up in southern Africa. They have very high levels of this Jewish DNA that they speak of. Um, so,
I'm sorry. What's Southern Africa like? When I think of Southern Africa,
well,
I think of like South Africa. Like,
no,
how far south are we talking?
southern Africa is the southern part of Africa, countries in the southern part of Africa. So there, a lot of them are in Zimbabwe. So anyway, the other Jewish people went to Europe and Russia, right? And the other Jewish people stayed in the area where you see them. They're Middle Eastern Jewish people that fight with Palestinians. So that's the deal. They've been invaded by Arabs, so they look differently than the African Jewish people. And those African Jewish people have a higher amount of Jewish DNA than all the ones that went to Europe and the ones over in the Middle East.
Okay. So I'm thinking like probably the ones who went up, went up north to Europe. They probably just got light over the years. I mean, you see this kind of stuff as
Well,
far as
they're
even the here and
mixed
now.
now. They're mostly European now, though.
Yeah, they've basically been whitewashed. They've been basically flipped to another demographic. The African, I mean, because my thing is this, as far as the whole, who are the actual Jews thing. Um, I just, for the life of me, I can't understand how, like, I mean, even when you look at the region, I mean, even and it's so close to Africa, I mean, you see black people all over the place. So my whole thing is, I think that if anything, the actual Jews are black. Now, what part of Africa? That's a whole different story. I don't think everybody who has black skin is quote unquote a Jew or whatever, but I do think that I'm saying if it be the case as far as I'm saying Jews, as far as that goes, I would think it would be more close to black skinned people than it would be somebody who's like an Arab or
Yeah, we
somebody
already
who's
said that.
Ashkenazi.
Yeah, we said that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I came in on the back end, so I wouldn't, what I'm
Hmm.
saying, know all of what was said before.
Yeah, we said that. We just said that we're not related to those African people that were Jewish.
What region would they be from? Like Zimbabwe or um, I heard
They
Igbo Jews, like stuff like that. Are they a part of that?
no, because they got tested and they're not Jewish by blood. Now, Ethiopian people got tested and they're called beta Jews because they have a long history of practicing Judaism, but they're not genetically tied to that haplogroup and DNA.
Okay, so where are the Jews? Where's the Jew location? I'm not understanding. Where's the Jew location?
I- That's a big argument, isn't it? Um, it's over there where they're fighting. That's where they sprung. That's kind of the area they sprung out of.
No, I
Ukraine?
understand. I understand. Like like where they're fighting right now, I do understand that. I'm talking about like as far as like where can I go to find the Jew? Like as far as okay, the Jews are over here, the
Ukraine?
Jews are over there. I
The
understand
Bronx,
standards spaced out,
Brooklyn,
but like what region where I find actual Jews and
Brooklyn.
not, what I'm saying, white Jews who are, what I'm saying, watered down so much to where they're basically white at this point. Or,
Okay, so you can go hang out with the Limba people in Zimbabwe. That's where they are.
okay.
If you want the ones of African descent that still maintained or retain their Africanness.
I wonder as far as the whole, as far as Jews go and because I found it very fascinating. Really, I mean, I looked at many stuff as far a lot of stuff as far as this. Like I said, I I kind of flaked off from the whole. Well, maybe the white people are Jews. I mean, I'm doubting that more every day
They're
because of how they
not.
move.
They can't be Jews because, they have some Jewish DNA, but they're not what the original Jewish people look like. Okay, that's not debatable. They've been invaded by
Okay.
Arabs on one end and went over to Europe and washed themselves out on the other end. That's clearly shown in their DNA profiles and in their migration profiles.
Well, where's the what's the Jew gene you said was J1 and J2?
Yeah, that's the one that they have. That's the one that the Limba tribe has. Somebody just sent me some others.
And that's from like
It has
the
nothing to do with us.
I don't know. Maybe there's some people who were swept up to that region. I have no idea. Probably, maybe, possibly.
Hmm.
Um, we could, I'm serious. Like we probably could. Like there could be a few of us over here. We could be
I'm
some.
sure
Now, I don't know
because,
about all of us, but maybe a few of us are
yeah,
peppered in the mix.
there's always going to be one with the levels of mixed upness that we've had. There's always going to be one, but
Uh,
it's not I've never seen it before.
well, only thing I gotta say is let me find out that I'm an actual Jew. Let me find out that I'm a Jew. Oh, I can't. I'm gonna be holding that up high. Like, yeah, I'm the actual. I'm the real Jew, and I'm gonna need you to move because God promised me to land under your feet. Go straight to Israel and tell him that.
That's
But
not working
yeah,
out very well for them though, is it?
huh?
I said that attitude and these scriptures that have promised them land, it doesn't seem to be working out very well, is it? I mean, they get
That
blown up over
that's actually
there.
supposed to be done in the end. That's something that is actually the final chapter part of it. That's not something that's in between.
Well, what are they doing now? Getting their legs blown off and fighting everybody all day?
Oh no, the people over there, they aren't the people from that region. They're just killing each other, thinking they're this and thinking they're that. They're not the
Okay,
actual,
but so who's the Bible talking about if it's not them?
Well, you tell me. You're the one talking about the Limba and J1 and J2.
Well,
I'm
they're
just
not
saying
down
that.
there fighting. They're not
Well,
fighting. They already have land.
I'm just saying there's two people who don't
And the
belong
land
there who
is
are fighting
no,
over
and
it.
the land that they're talking about in the Bible is nowhere near Zimbabwe.
Uh,
We're,
I'm just
we're, we're looking at. Uh, I see. I don't want to say it, but we're looking at psychological warfare that was put into books of holy books. We're looking at a master plan that was very brilliantly orchestrated, um, hitting us from several vectors. We think things are unrelated, but they are. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well,
like,
they've knocked the noses off Egyptian statues to a large degree. They weaponize everything that they touch. It doesn't mean
right?
that it makes the stuff irrelevant, but it's like this. It's like whenever they discover something, they start flipping stuff around them and recreating it in their own image for the sake of trying to maintain power.
Yeah,
That's where they come from. It doesn't, what I'm saying, invalidate what they came across. It just means that hey, man, they flipped it and weaponized it, and now you see what it is today.
yeah, that's true. All right, we're gonna get a couple more speakers, and we're gonna call it a night. I've learned a lot. I hate to cut y'all short, but it's movie night. uh, let's see who.
Yeah, I can speak now.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to talk to Wani actually. I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
ask her if she knows about the books that I put on the Jumbotron, so
No.
from Babylon to Timbuktu
Well,
and
what's the issue?
Hebrewisms of West Africa.
Hmm.
You know about them?
Which tribe is this that's a
No,
Hebrew?
it's talking about like a lot of West African peoples, and basically
Hmm.
what it's saying it's
Hmm.
that
They're all
pre-colonially,
Jewish, right?
nah,
Hmm.
pre-colonially in West Africa there was many peoples that had, let's say, rites and rituals that were extremely similar to like
I
Jewish
know about it.
ones.
And they got tested.
Yeah, but that's what my question is. When you talk about that Jewish haplogroup, J1, isn't that
Hmm.
an Arabic haplogroup as well? So like how do you make the distinction? And second of all, what's the oldest fossil that makes you so sure that that haplogroup is in fact like biblical Jews?
Basically, the Limba are the ones walking around with the most potent DNA of that group. So the other people being tested don't have any kind of DNA related to Jewishness.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's still
everybody's,
J1, right?
these people are welcome to, like the Ethiopians, they've been Jewish for a long time. They put their DNA up there and it does not show that they're related to that tribe.
Yeah, but what makes you so sure that that DNA is indeed biblical Jews?
Uh, well, which DNA do you want it to be?
I mean, nobody knows for sure. So
We do
I'm
know.
assuming that you
We do
know
know.
something that I
Do
don't know.
do West Africans have that DNA related to Jewishness?
Some of them actually.
What are which ones? See
Actually,
how
I
Africans
sent it
do?
to
They
you. Yeah,
just say
man.
whatever they want.
I can post it. Like I
Oh,
can post it.
God.
Let me post it right now.
Okay, so there's a new tribe that has Jewish DNA. Is that
It's
what you're saying?
no. It's
Don't tell me
very
that they practice Jewish customs because other people do. A
yeah.
lot of
I'm
people
talking
might.
about Jewish customs. I think
Okay,
that's
a
like
lot of people.
pretty
That doesn't
common.
mean they're Jewish.
Exactly. But then there's also a little bit of Jewish DNA.
You always say that.
I mean,
You use that to dismiss my lineage and my ethnogenesis
no,
here.
no.
Everybody's mixed. I have a little bit of this and I have 1% Portuguese. So therefore I'm the same as you. Remember,
Okay, you can look at the
you
jumbotron,
like
but
to muddy the
as
water.
you can see,
You always
there's.
do this.
I mean, I'm not lying about anything right now. I'm genuinely
You're,
trying to
con-
know
you're,
what
con-
you
you're
think.
conflating Jewish practices with Jewish DNA. We're trying to track DNA and using archaeological samples. We don't
Right,
care
and
if
I'm
some
saying the
Africans decided to be
archaeological
Jewish.
samples that you're
We
talking
don't
about,
care
where are
if
they from?
Africans decided to be Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or any of the other things they've been tricked into being. We don't care. We're
That's
talking
fine.
about DNA.
Let's put that
We're talking
conversation
about a
aside.
real link to this tribe we're talking about.
Right, right.
We're
And
not
I'm
just
saying,
talking about a religion.
what's the earliest fossil or archaeological proof that the biblical Jews had the haplogroup J1? That's basically what my question is. And
Oh,
I think
I have to
saying
look it
that the
up.
Lembas have like the strongest or most potent J1 haplogroup is not really enough of a proof to me. That's
Okay.
basically what I'm saying.
So you don't feel that they're the strongest ones on the planet.
Excuse me?
You don't feel that they're the strongest, uh, most potent Jews on the planet.
They are the strongest something, but what's the proof that
Strongest something.
it's Jewish
The proof
DNA?
is that they've done the DNA tests of everybody, basically everybody
With
on the
what as a
planet.
reference? What's the reference point?
Oh, here we go. Here we
Th-
go.
It's so
Isn't that a fair
interesting.
question?
It's so interesting that y'all defend you're defending this ideology, but it makes sense to me because this ideology has been shoved down our throats and dressed in a package as if it's divinity itself when it's not. We're looking at warfare. This is all warfare. That term, we need to look at the meaning of words. That term, according to Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, meant someone who made jewelry. Like, we're confusing jewelry makers with the children of Israel, which might be you. You know, it goes back to what Dr. Sharshi McIntyre said. Sharshi McIntyre said, the European goes out himself to worship God. When we go inward to worship God, God is a part of us. We're going looking for somebody. Let's find somebody to worship. That ain't us. Yeah.
What you just said reminded me of a Ghanaian proverb. It's God can't die, therefore I can die. And we have a symbol for that proverb, and it's a cross actually. So that's actually
Interesting.
interesting.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a couple more speakers and
I was gonna
go ahead, Wani.
answer his question. He said, "How old was the J1 haplogroup? Is 20,000 years old.
No, 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 not how old it is, but what's the
J2
reference
was
point for
12.
it being like biblical Hebrews? I'm just making sure you understand what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Like, for example, we have the mummies to verify that the E1B1A is, you know, ancient Egyptians.
Hmm.
What is the proof for J1 being
That it's
biblical
related to,
Hebrews?
because it's related to this one ancestor on the paternal side.
That's not enough.
Well, that's
It
all
could
you're
be
gonna
some
get.
random
That's
it
all
could be
that
some
any. That's
random
all
Middle
you're gonna
Eastern
get.
person.
Okay, that's all you're gonna get until you start putting up some information. Because
I
if
think
it's not good enough, I mean,
E1B1B.
that's like saying it's not good enough that our haplogroup is linked to King Ramses III and the Amarna mummies. Oh, that's not good enough. Yes, it is.
I
That is
never
good
said
enough.
that.
It's
Thank
a
you
I
direct
very
never
link.
said
much.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
that's
never
good
said that,
enough.
one.
Thank you very much.
I
That's
said that
good enough
West
for me.
Africans also had that.
You are desperate.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm asking genuine questions, by the way.
You're asking questions that are annoying that you
Okay,
know are
Wani,
bogus.
don't you know about E1B1B being
Ugh,
also a Jewish haplogroup? Einstein had that.
that's nice.
Is that not true?
Isn't he white?
Einstein had that haplogroup. He
He
was
did have
white.
an afro.
Yes, but it's haplogroup E, which is
So
characteristically like
they have a lot of haplogroups. Um,
exactly. So why are you focusing on the
Hitler
J1
probably
though?
because that's the one that the Limba people had. You want me to read all of them?
So
Ethiopian Jews
why
have
why are you so
Ethiopian.
sure that that haplogroup J is very far from E? So how can
Okay,
it be one people?
okay, hold on. Ethiopian Jews are considered beta Jews. So why would I look at their haplogroup? Unless you're related directly, why would I look at your haplogroup just because you're saying you're Jewish?
Einstein is not a beta
Can we go on to
Israelite.
something else because
Just
Sure, sure.
defending to the death. That's what this ideology has done. It's attacked our mind, and we think we're defending the Lord. We're not. We're defending an ideology that's weaponized. Um, New person. Let's see who didn't speak. Yeah, new people. Let's go to Let's flip back around to Ani. Sorry, he's been waiting quite a while. What's on? What's on mind, Ani? Sorry.
Yeah, there was a lot of babble, and Wani was cooking them. I'm gonna say
I
that
see.
Wani was cooking them, and it is a lot of babble, and it comes from like that book. I found the book. Uh, is by Valencia Straighten. That the Jewish mythology, the Israel mythology, page 22, says mythology of Israel begins as we see with a cult of Hova, who originally was Eve, who was the mother of Set, also called Seth in the Bible.
Hello.
The serpent belongs to an early representation of the mother. Now follow this. And followed the time when she was known by the type of the hippopotamus and coincides with the change in Israel from the worship of the north, the stars, to that instituted by Moses in the wilderness. And the manna fed to the children of the wilderness is emblematic of the feminine reckoning and rule, and the angels' food supplied by the genetrix of the genosium above the children below. Man did eat angels' food. Psalms 25, which was the bread of the mighty, meaning that celestial knowledge originated from the northern point of the heavens. This says that the Israelite worship system came from the worship of stars, Professor
Do me a
Alan
favor.
Moore.
Do me a favor. Take a picture of that and put it in my jumbotron, would you please, sir? Because that's what I've heard from one of my scholar friends. He said that basically, ladies and gentlemen, the Holy Trinity, as we know it, came from Egypt, and it was the virgin birth, which came from Asar, the father, uh, Aset, the mother, and Heru, the son. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Sound familiar, right? Well, according to the Memphite theology, Set Typhon. If you say it fast, it sounds like Satan. Set Typhon. Set Typhon got jealous of his brother Asar and killed him and cut his body into a bunch of pieces. Well, long story short, 13 pieces. There goes your 13. Um, and they hid. Aset went to go find the pieces of her husband to give him a proper burial and could find every piece but his penis, which is why when you go to Washington D.C., you see the obelisk, the pencil. It looks like a phallic symbol. There's a sign that's in honor of Osiris's penis. Um, that's a fact. Well, the reason why I brought this up is my scholar friend said the reason why the world is in abject chaos right now is because it was in perfect harmony when the uh, the rulers, the followers of Osiris, the followers of God, basically, were in perfect harmony with everything. But out of jealousy and spite, Set destroyed his brother, killed his brother, and his Set's followers took over took over the world vis-a-vis the Moors. Yes, through the temple of Set, and that they're still taking this shit over. So you kind of said that with that scholarship, and it would help me a lot if you take a picture and put that in my jumbotron.
You
So
know,
go ahead.
I needed to say something to Dan real quickly. I looked up the haplogroup of Einstein. He doesn't have a Jewish haplogroup, so stop.
Doesn't he have
Mm.
E1B1B?
That's not
Hello.
Jewish. That's not Jewish.
Hold on, let me post it.
I don't know if y'all saw my hand,
The
but
origin is East Africa.
It's the Levant, actually,
Sorry.
Natufians.
No, it says East Africa, and it says it's distributed in North Africa, Horn of Africa, Middle East, Europe, and South Africa. So it's distributed a lot of places. That's not claim. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a
I'll,
Jewish
I'll, I'll
haplogroup.
post I'll
That's the
post my
problem.
source.
Whatever. He doesn't have a Jewish haplogroup. He is Jewish, but look at him. He just doesn't have a Jewish haplogroup. It's not just for him. It's not just for one group.
Mm. Wani is making a lot of strong points tonight. We're gonna go to the Black Mr. X, and housing will have last words. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a new speaker. Let's see what Queen talks about.
And furthermore, what does Einstein's genetics have to do with the conversation? We were speaking about black people that were Jewish.
I don't know when
He's
they
Jewish. That's why.
they're trying.
Uh,
It's almost as if it's classical conditioning. We've been so brainwashed and trained to view certain groups of people as related to God or God Himself that we shift into protection mode, even when our logic makes no sense whatsoever. As an outsider, it's very interesting for me to witness this actually, because nobody wanting that's challenged you tonight to present a logical argument to your a counter argument to your argument. It was nothing logical. It's talking all in circles, and from my view, I could be wrong. It seemed like emotion, like, oh no, must defend, because my pastor told me that Jesus was a da da da. It's just a lot of emotionalism going into that. You know, Queen, what's on your mind?
What's up? How y'all doing tonight?
What up?
So, um, I just wanted to go back. I know Sister Wani, you just mentioned that the indigenous Americas does pop up in people's DNA. And I just got my DNA test back from Ancestry. And it popped up on mine as well as indigenous Mexico. But the thing that's so preposterous to me is the fact that I matched to like 22,000 people in America that's supposed to like we share at least 1% DNA. Why don't we ever like have like long lost cousins from Africa that we match up to? Cause Ancestry, they do DNA tests in Africa as well. So like if we're all, from Africa and we just arrived here from Africa 200 years ago, then why don't we have like 12 and 13th cousins reaching out to us? That's all
I
I
don't.
wanted to
I
ask.
Because
don't
we're
see
not
him.
related to them.
I see a
That's
lot
what
of.
I figured. That's what I was
Yeah,
saying if I
I
was
don't see
like,
him, and I looked, so I don't see him. I see
yeah,
people in
me either.
America.
So that's all I really wanted to say. And I know you just celebrated your birthday, Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn too, so gang gang.
That truth is coming out ferociously. It's almost like when you put that little crack in a dam, and over time, a little bit of water come out, and then you got the people coming and try to patch it up, but it's too late. The truth done busts out. The sister brought up a really good point. Why don't we ever match the people across the pond? Because we're a different group. We're our own group. And that's okay. That's not to say anything bad about anybody. Why is it bad for us to claim who we are when everybody else on the planet get to claim who they are? The moment we claim who we are, everybody loses their fucking mind. Could it be that they're used to making money off of us? Could it be that they're used to parasiting off of us? I'm not making a statement. I'm just asking a question. Mr. X, what's on your mind, man?
Why don't you can check the Jumbotron? I'll post them up, proof.
No, no, no.
Uh,
Come on. I'm fucking dead.
okay. Peace to the room. I just want to say that I'm coming in the spirit of knowledge, in the spirit of love. But I have a couple questions about what has been said. My first question is: you said the Limba tribe has the strongest Jewish gene out of all the African people. What is the reference gene that you're referring to for them?
Do you know anyone else that has that DNA profile? I mean, a lot of groups that have practiced Judaism have put their DNA up, and it doesn't amount to anything
Put it up to what though is my question.
to show that to show that they're
No,
that
no, like you said they putting it up. They have to put it up against something, right? So I'm
they're
asking.
presenting it just like the Limba tribe was practicing Jewish customs, circumcision, not eating pork, wearing certain clothes, and certain marriage habits. So they understood that they were different than the people around them in their tribe, but they didn't understand what was the difference. They had lost some knowledge over the years. So um, they saw some Jewish people and they said, "Hey, we do these customs, right?" And then they put their DNA up in the 90s. And then they were tested again. Jewish people didn't want them to be Jewish, as you can imagine. They didn't want them to exist. But there's are some honest researchers that do put the information out there. And then they had another group of Jewish people that tried to dismiss them, and then they were tested again. Now, their DNA profile looks totally different than someone like Jerry Seinfeld or someone like Einstein. And and of course, the Jewish people that are really washed out. So their DNA profiles look different. Ethiopian people put their DNA up and they were declared beta Jews. And I guess that's to say that because they have a history of practicing Judaism a long time, that they're honorary Jews, but they're not considered ethnic Jews. Somebody said they were, but I haven't found any evidence to show that they are ethnically Jewish. So you have to,
Okay,
it's on you. If you can find a West African group that's ethnically Jewish, or any group that we come from that's ethnically Jewish, put it up there. It's not for me to say what they're comparing it to. It's up to you to say what are who is more Jewish than the Limba people. And
okay,
I've noticed a lot of Hebrew Israelites want to get rid of them too. So that's annoying as well. They want to erase their heritage. Oh no, because interferes with our fake claim. So they want to not only lie about their background, but they want to bash these Limba people that don't even know them. They're actually jealous of them because they actually have proof of their background, and the Hebrew Israelites are not proud of their backgrounds. They're blinded to the fact that they have a very legendary background if they're FBA, and they just want to fight and tussle with people that are actually Jewish.
okay. So again, I said this out of love, right? I'm viewing this as it could be a case of the same thing that they do with the red native tribes here in America, because who is to say that that reference population that they're testing them against is the real Jews? You see what I'm saying? So you can't do something for one situation that you wouldn't do to the other. Is basically what I'm trying to get at.
Well, there's different types of testing. So the testing that the Limba tribe got is not 23andMe. So when we do 23andMe, we may not see what happened a couple of hundred years ago. Maybe you will. But it's very possible that you could be Native American and it doesn't show up. And plus, they didn't test a lot of Native Americans, so it's weaker than we would expect it to be. We know that Black Americans walked on the Trail of Tears. We know that they lived on reservations, so obviously there was a lot of close proximity sex going on. So we know that we're related to the red Native American, and we know that we're related to the Aboriginal type. What's the problem? You just need to be Jewish too. Those other things are not good enough.
It's
No.
in. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
so like the thing, my thing is, I just feel like if we're gonna use genetics, then we should use it. We should go all
Well,
the way.
we really were not using genetics. We were using maps and we were using um, time frames. Okay, so if you were here before, we were using a map, and the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen in Palestine. So that's problem number one. We also were using time frames where people of African that looked of African descent moved from the original area, right? And that happened before the transatlantic slave trade, so we're not related to the Limba tribe. I don't understand the problem. We're not related to the Limba tribe. We're not related to white Jews that went over to Europe unless you married one of them. And we're not related to the Middle East Jews that are fighting the Palestinians now because they didn't take slaves from there. So how are we Jewish? How are we
So
those Jewish people if they went in three different directions and we have nothing to do with either one of those directions?
uh, okay, so I was here when you said those tribes at the time were black, correct?
So a lot of people are black.
Yeah, they're black, but they
Are
have
we re-
nothing.
are we related to them?
Since it's getting late in time, I'm just going to spell it out for the room. Dr. Chancellor Williams identified that the Black Americans who made it to, not just the indigenous are one group. There's no relation between the indigenous Black Americans, referred to as Indians, and the Jews. There's no relation to that lineage. Furthermore, Dr. Chancellor Williams identifies that the blacks that were brought from Africa to America were bought from a specific lineage he referred to as the Bushong tribe, who had close ties with Egyptians, may have been Egyptian. I haven't proved that yet, but my point is that Portuguese were sent to take a very specific group of black people to put in America with intent of rebuilding Egypt in America. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Yes, we did say earlier that the people that were in Canaan could not be white because Arabs had not invaded the area yet, and people from the Caucasus and the steppe region, they hadn't come down there. They're not there now. So what they would have to be of African descent. What does that mean?
So that's what I'm. So like, if the reference population is the people that were admixed in Europe, then that means
Who
that.
said that? Okay.
That's why I asked where you getting your reference, Gene,
Okay,
from.
but I just told you the situation with the demographic, and I told you which way people went. So if the people that were of African descent in Canaan went to southern Africa, and the other ones went to Europe and became white, and the other ones are Middle Eastern Jews because they were mixed with Arabs, at which point did they snatch us from anywhere near any of those people's locations? The transatlantic slave trade didn't happen in Europe with the Jews. It didn't happen in southern Africa with the Limba, and it didn't happen in Palestine. So how could we be Jews?
Okay, so I use the Bible, but I know you guys don't want to do that.
Use it. It's not going to help.
because it depends on which one you're using, and
It doesn't. How's the Bible going to help? What does that
yeah,
have to do with the
it's not.
transatlantic slave trade?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, Wani. It's not a, with all
It's
due respect, it's not a book of history. It's not. It has nothing to do with history. Very
this is
little.
not going to be the time frame of the transatlantic slave trade, and the movements of the people are still going to be the same.
That's
There,
another good point.
you cannot pull out any kind of book.
The Bible tells you how the people move.
Okay, tell us.
Well,
So
if we're gonna do that, which I don't advise, we got to say which one, because it's. I mean, which one, which version?
uh the King James.
Can't use it. That's been weaponized by King James himself.
Okay, he can use any Bible he wants. When was the Bible created, and when did the transatlantic slave trade happen?
That's a good point. Well, King James was created in 1806. I'm sorry,
No, I
16.
mean not the not a particular version,
Okay, when was it created? Yeah, I see where you're going, Wani. This is like an asinine argument.
because the activities that happen in the Bible happen at a certain time, not at when King James redid it.
Exactly.
And that
Way
doesn't and
before.
that's not going to change anything. You're still stuck with the fact that at the time of the transatlantic slave trade, the people in that area look similar to the way they look now, like Arabs.
The slave verse that you're talking about, that was prophecy. That wasn't history.
Who, me?
Okay.
I'm gonna just drop down. Y'all y'all can have it.
No, this is an argument nobody's gonna win.
No, somebody's going to win. Check it out.
Uh-oh.
There's no, somebody won. Somebody won because you're talking about the Bible. The transatlantic slave trade happened at a location, and that location is not where you're talking about. And if it did happen there in Palestine, then we would look Arab. We would look like the people over there. They look like that 500 years ago. They didn't look like that 5,000 years ago, but they look like that now. And they look like
But
that
but
500 years ago.
isn't that
No,
because of the Arab
Oh my
invasions?
God. Yeah. But when did
the
they
people
So
invade?
before the
first.
Arab
When did
invasions,
they
what did they
invade,
look
though?
like?
They look like Africans.
Right. So
When did the
what DNA
transatlantic
would they
slave
have? They
trade?
wouldn't have the same DNA as the Arabs
Oh, when did the transatlantic slave trade happen?
from 500 years ago.
Okay. And when did the Arabs invade?
800 years ago.
Oh, never mind.
I might.
The
It
slave
was it
trade was
was actually 1200 actually.
historically
1400.
people
What?
had already.
They invaded in 700.
Yeah. So 1400, 1300, give or take.
Okay, so the transatlantic slave trade is nowhere near the Arabs. They already
Yeah.
invaded. They
So that
already
means
made
that they would have
everybody
been
look.
in that
They already
region for
made everybody look
1400.
Right,
white.
already heard. They weren't in that area anymore.
Who wasn't in the
Exactly.
area
So
anymore?
so okay,
Stop, you
let's
guys.
assume.
One
Hold
persistent person at a time. They weren't in the
on.
area anymore, so they were where? We already told you where they went. They went to Southern Africa, they went to Europe and became white, and they stayed in the area that they're at now and became overrun by Arabs. Who else
Honey,
are you talking about?
listen to what I'm saying
No.
and
Who else
understand.
are you talking about,
Question.
X? Name the other group that went west and became these Jewish people on the west that we're all Jewish because of. Name them.
They went to the four corners of the world, right? So you have
Oh
to
my
look at
God. Next.
what
No,
was considered world
no, I'm not.
at.
Four corners of the world, that's not a legitimate statement. Next.
That's why I asked you if you want to use a Bible.
No, I
What
don't. I want to use names of people. You can't say they went over there and they did that. That doesn't make any sense. You're not giving any times, places, or dates.
Yeah, our emotions are tied up into this ideology. It's been done intentionally to help us support a group. that have no historical connection to the land in which let me leave this
This is
alone.
why
This is dangerous.
people think we're out of our minds. Oh, we're
Right.
Moors, we're this, we're that. You can't be all of those things. Okay, there are some Moors that came over here and they were escorting slaves on slave ships.
What wasn't us.
No, it wasn't. But we did lie and say we were Moors, and there's like books about it. In fact, my family was one of the families in Delaware who was saying they were Moors. So I know about the Moors. The Moors were over here getting protection from the government so they wouldn't be treated like Black Americans. They had a whole court case about it, right? 17, what is it? 1790 Sundry Act.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to be treated like Black Americans. So, yes, people were saying they were Moors, and there were some slave selling Moors that were in and on and off of ships doing things over here, even being overseers. That doesn't mean we're all Moors, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a positive. What if the name of the game was to spread misinformation into our midst and make us claim every other identity but ours because our identity is so fucking powerful and unremixable, that once we stand in our identity, the rest of these phony identities just melt away. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare that we have begun to step into our true identity, and that's where all the hubbub is coming from.
And Moors' lineage is specific, Jewish people's lineages are specific,
Ultra specific.
and they're not compatible with foundational Black American lineage. They don't show up ever. There's no proof of us, any groups running over to the West to be snatched up by slave traders. There's no proof that one type of person was targeted for slavery. We already said that some kings gave up their wives and their family members.
Wait, isn't that what Prophet Alan is saying though? About the
What?
Bouchon?
Oh, Lord.
And furthermore, with the lack of compatibility, Wani was
Mhm.
talking about lack of compatibility from a genetic standpoint, but I'm looking at a cultural standpoint. If you look at Moors, the quote unquote Moors I read earlier from um, J.A. Rogers, masterpiece, page 14, J.A. Rogers says Tibu Tip, the Negro slave trader, a Negro slave trader from trader in slaves and ivory from Zanzibar. He's killing elephants too. Fuck him to hell. From Zanzibar, East Africa, was the first civilized man to penetrate the center of Africa. Tibu Tip was a goddamn Moor slave trader. He was no friend of mine. He sold me. You know what I'm saying? We're not compatible with him. You know, and like Wani said, he didn't even claim being melanated. He wanted to be called Moor.
Yeah, they
So
wanted to be a class, and they didn't want to be Black Americans.
So that's
So,
lack of compatibility right
and
there, is what that
they
is.
they have a lineage as well,
Mm-hmm.
Northern Africa, and we don't have that. It doesn't show up. It's like a black spot. The place that they want to claim is a black spot. Northern Africa over to the west and the Middle East. It just rarely shows up. Rarely.
Hmm.
So it shows that it can't be prominent.
There you go. And with respect to Jewish lineage, I'm gonna paraphrase him. Um, J. Rogers says in number 32 of the same masterpiece, the Negro Jews of India are not permitted to enter the same synagogues as the white ones. That right there, stopping right there, that shows that there's lack of compatibility culturally. So there's lack of genetic compatibility and lack of cultural compatibility. Given the facts presented, I posit that there is no compatibility. We are who we are. I would say that, like I think Wani may have said this earlier, we have a more strong genetic and cultural. Well, fuck that. I'm not even gonna say. I'm gonna say I can prove that we have a stronger genetic compatibility to the Kemites, the people of Egypt, right? And a given the gentleman in Atlanta who did a DNA test and popped related to Ramses III. That's
And
history. Look it up.
there was one in North Carolina, and he was the local joke because he was walking around in Egyptian outfits and he did his
Wow.
DNA and it had that's a
There it
true
is.
story. He was a local joke walking around in his Egyptian outfit in the neighborhood. He did his DNA and he's actually got that notification that he was related.
Yeah, and with that, so there goes we proved that we have genetic compatibility to the Kemites or Egyptians of the land of Kemet and Temeri, Atlantis, Lemuria, whatever you want to call these lands. Although I'm not positive that they're the same thing. I'm saying Atlantis and Lemuria was before Kemet, Temeri. But anyway, so cultural compatibility to Kemet and Tamari, according to Dr. Joseph Carruthers, when he did his study on the cultural phenotypes of the Kemetic or Egyptian women, he saw the same stances that were seen in 1970 pictures of black women from Chicago, Mississippi, and Alabama, hands on the hip, standing the same way when they were angry. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Kemites. Let's step into that identity because it belongs to us. And I think that's what they're afraid of. In the Holy Bible, it shows the group of people associated with the Hebrews saying, Pharaoh, let my people go, which implies a certain oppression of those people by the Kemites, Egyptians. Could that
Well,
be the? Go ahead.
we have more in common with the Egyptians because everybody copies our culture. Everybody is coming to see what we're doing,
We keep inventing things.
and we're always on the forefront of everything. But the other group is a parasitic group that just goes from place to place, mooching off of other people. And so, no, that's not compatible with my group.
Hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to Endo, and I gotta close this space out. Endo, what's on your mind? We'll give the black last words.
This conversation is hilarious. Yeah, I saw a video of this, I guess, a rabbi who was saying that Black Americans have the cohamine DNA marker, like a certain percentage of us, and
Hmm.
that the whole we might be true Jews could be. To me, that sounds like warfare. But anyway, have you heard of that? That the cohamine thing?
Yeah, that's what the Limba tribe has. That's what we don't have.
Oh, this guy was saying that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that sounds like warfare to me. Like because the reason why I'm saying that is because there's other rumors about Noble Drew Ali, the more science temple guy, that he was actually an agent of the Ottoman Empire, really like sent here to rile up people to try to overturn, the same thing like the same thing the Russians wanted to do to try to rile up the black people to weaken America itself and all of that. And this dude is this stuff with them people over there with over there right now blowing up shit.
What
This
year was
does sound like
this?
Wolf
What year was this? Do you
Noble Drew
know?
Ali.
Yeah, generally
Like
speaking.
the 1900, 1911,
Okay.
like
Okay.
right before World War One type stuff, type era about that guy Noble Drew Ali and all his messiness, and then the whole like, no, you're Moors and you need to go and file and get rid of your citizenship and come to Morocco and that all that you're actually a Moroccan citizen and all of that stuff. Like it's some agent stuff. And the same with this whole you can find this on it's everywhere all over the damn YouTube about this Kohameen shit. I don't believe it. I always just kind of just always just felt like we were different from everybody else because we have this very distinct mannerisms. That's one of the reasons why these actors from other people from other places pretending to be playing the roles that we play, they have these very extremely stiff mannerisms, and we can clearly tell that okay, you're from the fuck nigga, like you from somewhere else. You move funny, you breathe funny, you blink funny, your eyeballs is too wide open, like all that. And we do have similar mannerisms to the pictures on the walls and over there in Egypt and stuff with the hands on the hips and the and like when your mama say, "Boy, come here," the way she turns her hand over and go, and when she take that mannerism or holding something in her like those mannerisms I see amongst us in my whole life, especially amongst the women. So, but yeah, but I think that Kohamin stuff is some more warfare stuff, and that's all.
I do appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks.
We're gonna give the black last words.
Oh Lord Jesus, my head was hurting for a while. All the nigga conspiracies. Shit. I see what y'all go through. Look, this what I don't like when it comes down to a lot of sex of thought. Especially when it comes down to the religious aspect, because a lot of people be disingenuous for monetary gain and just for population, pop, popularity, and like the first ideal of the lost tribes was based off of what the people that was coming over here looking at what the Indians was doing. Second, when it come down to us, like first, but thinking that we was part of the lost tribes, that was during the holiness movement, during the Azusa movement, when we that's before the Jehovah Witness section of the Baptist church split off and start dealing with them LDS people and shit. Like religion in America and black folks is very when you look at it and look at all these different sectors, it's very funny because it was just like different ways, kind of like how white people culture appropriate all our music and stuff. It was basically like they want to integrate with us, but they were scared of the things that we was doing, or they just didn't understand it. So they labeled it so many different things. That's why after the Civil War, so much look, different things was outlawed against us during the Black codes, like us being in the church and us singing a certain type of way. That was demonized. They'll want to burn up your church. Like these white folks is crazy. Especially when the other immigrants, they bring in the other immigrants and they try to add in their religion in with it and remix it. Like they they know how to act when they came in our churches and we was singing the gospel. Like they really felt the Holy Ghost. It got to speaking in tongues. So I feel like a lot of people that do dabble in religion, and if you actually want to make this a profession, I feel like yeah, you shouldn't get the tax free exemption and just tell the truth to your people and be a non denominational church so you can tell the truth. Because if you don't, then yeah, you should always be looked at as somewhat suspect and a keeper of the secrets behind the veil, because that's basically why they formed a lot of these Freemason groups around Christianity and these other little religions, because at the end of the day, it's to trick you into believing you something else so they can take your birthright away. That's the whole premise of the Bible. And this one thing I have yet to hear like any type of Bible thumper, no matter what religion you is how you explain Canada and that not being Canaan, when that's the only landmass that's really haven't changed its name. And the whole premise of the lost tribes was they came from Canaan, and Canaan was supposed to be part of the lost land of milk and honey, which everything is over here is milk and honey, where everything flows beautifully and abundant. I in there,
Where do you live?
Texas.
Maybe I should stop by. I just want to say one thing real quick. When they had that book out from Hebrews to Negroes or any other time, when Jewish people get mad as a hornet, when that type of information comes out and they get infuriated, guess what? I don't say anything. I don't care. I want them to get I want them to get mad. Even though I know, I mean, it's one thing to say the original Hebrews, Hebrew Israelites, or whatever you want to call them, that the original Israelites were black. That's true. And it's shown. And I think the Limba people let people see how that works. If they have a more potent um, strain and these other people have a watered down strain, I think it shows who's got the potency and what those people would look like. Plus, I already described the migration patterns, how there couldn't be anybody lighter skin there. But to make an illogical jump out the window and latch onto yet another profile after claiming being from Morocco, which we're not, um, it's not necessary. You can aggravate Jewish people by simply saying that you are a watered down version and you don't measure up to the Limba people. You don't have to say you're a Limba person. You don't have to make, jump out the window on it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, they're not the originals and they're not potent and they are counterfeits. But that doesn't mean we are the real Jewish people because they do exist. They're not a mythical group of people. And at this point, the Moors don't exist because they stopped calling themselves that and they use another name now. They
There you
probably
go.
got tired of that name being misused by so many different people for so many different reasons.
Well, that's the conclusion of this space was what does Hebrew really mean? Hebrew really means her web, meaning the web of Mother de Zedekiah, also known as a zodiac, the 12 tribes of Israel or the 12 zodiacs. That's according to Dr. C. Freeman L., the late great C. Freeman L., teacher of Bobby Hemmett. Are Moors, aloes, or ops? Well, we've portrayed and presented a lot of evidence from J.A. Rogers and Dr. Chancellor Williams that the Moors have more oppish behavior than ally behavior. In fact, I did not find any ally behavior, so we're going to leave it there. I've enjoyed y'all today. Remember, you can pick up my book by going to Our Story Publications. It's in the Jumbotron, putting $25 and putting your full address. Make sure you put the right zip code. I mailed out a batch of books yesterday, and some of the zip codes were wrong. We had to search through them. Gave the post office guy a headache. But yep, I got about around 50 books left. We talk more about this stuff. I talk extensively in my book about this, and I have uh, activities is active for you and your children to write papers and do puzzles on your lineage and effects that uh, systemic racism has had on our FBA lineage. I've enjoyed y'all. We're gonna pick me and Wani gonna pick this subject up in a different venue tomorrow. Hey Nikki, I didn't see you down there. I was like, where'd Nikki go? But yeah, I got so engaged in this conversation. This conversation was powerful. Um, and man, I learned a lot. Wani dominated on this one. Wani, you learned me some. With that being said, I'm gonna give Wani last words. Anything you want to say, Wani?
Good night.
Good night, all. Peace out. See y'all on Tariq's show.